Hi, everyone. Good evening. Carl Steinbeck here. Day 25, Commonwealth of Mass versus Karen Reed. And we have the defense case in chief proceeding on this Monday, 2nd of June. And we had the first, after 15 minutes, the judge arrived and Alessi resolved something with Brennan on a one-on-one. And then at the 16:15 mark, the judge ruled on the text messages. So let's jump to that.
Your Honor, I've resolved the matter with Mr. Brennan that would have been the subject of that.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So I appreciate getting the redacted text messages over the weekend. Ms. Gianetti, this is yours, right? So, Mr. Brennan, I'm letting the text messages in over the Commonwealth's objection. I find that they're properly authenticated and that they do go to...
Can I turn this fan off?
Yes, can we turn... Thank you. So I do find that they're properly authenticated, and I find that they come in as they go to the state of mind of Trooper Proctor, specifically as that goes to potentially reflecting any bias or omissions in the police investigation. So I'll give a limiting instruction at the time they can come in. I understand that what was still remaining with disagreement are in orange. So I've got rulings on those. I don't think we need argument. We've heard plenty of argument on this. So regarding the first page with the numbers, I think we should do it the way I inquired about them last week, with just the last two numbers, not the last four. So those redactions will have to be made. I think the first...
We don't see what reaction she's talking about here, but
page with disagreement is on page 02537. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, so the first one from Bird saying something stinks, I'm going to allow that in. And then there's a message that you both agree to in yellow. And then for the orange, all I'm going to let in out of that is gotta be, and that's where it ends. So you'll have to redact.
so they even got some of the text in orange coloring. So we just don't know what they have here, but
out the rest of that, Ms. Gianetti. And the next page, and the only other one was 02539, is that right?
Correct.
So that comes out. All right, that's it. I don't know who's...
so cherry picking certain things. Why is she cherry picking certain things anyway? It's one of these deals where the judge, I think, allowed these text messages of Proctor that he sent to his friends to come in through his friends around the texting string, because I think she's worried about Proctor being called by the defense. So I think she's only doing this to help the prosecution. I think she's not doing this to help defense. I think she's worried that how bad Proctor's going to come across on the stand. So by having it come through the friend, it's not going to do as much damage. So anyway, I do think that it is a bit odd to go through the receiving end of these texts from Proctor, like they don't want to call Proctor. So I don't know if Proctor has become unavailable. There's something, a notice that's a witness is unavailable through some kind of motion under seal. So I don't know if that's Proctor and he's going to claim the fifth or something like that. But anyway, this makes me think, why didn't they bring this out through other government witnesses like Sergeant Uri? So
objections, those are my rulings. All right, can we bring the jury in, please?
okay, jury gets started here at 23. This is Jonathan Demandis. He's been on the same group text with Proctor for 10 plus years. They've known each other since high school.
May I proceed, Your Honor?
Yes.
Good morning, sir. Would you please state your name and spell your last name?
Jonathan Diamandis, Diamandis.
Sir, do you know former Trooper Michael Proctor?
I do.
How do you know him?
We've been friends since middle school, approximately 30 years.
And in what town?
Canton, Massachusetts.
Did you graduate high school with Michael Proctor?
I did.
When was that?
2000.
How close did you remain in contact?
Yeah, I understand. Buchanan wasn't on the text string, but he's also part of the investigation. He was actually Proctor's boss, and he didn't know about the texts until they came in through the FBI, like what was it, a year and a half later or so. But he was talking about his high character, or however he said it, for the work of Proctor on this case. So, and then remember, he got into some of the comments that Proctor made about Karen Reed. So I'm just saying he could have gone into more comments about Karen Reed. So it seems like they didn't think this through all the way. The defense I'm talking about.
With Michael Proctor after high school?
Very close.
Do you have his cell number?
I do.
How often have you texted him over the years?
Frequently.
And when you text him, is that direct one-to-one or part of a group chat or both?
Both.
And I want to direct your attention to one particular group chat that had 9 people on it. Do you know the one I'm referring to?
I do.
And what one is that?
It's one that's been in existence for many years. We've been texting on that text chain for 10 plus years, I would suggest.
Okay. And over those 10 years, the members of that group chat, I'm not asking you for names, but if you could tell me, where are these people from? How do you know them?
We all grew up together and went to school together at some point.
All from Canton?
All from Canton.
And with regard to the 9 people on that group chat, you're one of them?
Correct.
And whether or not Michael Proctor is on that group chat with the rest of your high school friends as well?
He is, yes.
May I have the exhibit that was marked for identification, please? I apologize, I don't recall the triple letter. Would have been the last one from Friday. It's triple N as in Nancy. And Your Honor, may I approach the witness for the purpose of handling
Yes.
this?
I don't watch that, so I don't know Aunt Nancy.
And I've handed you what has been marked triple N for identification. Do you recognize that, sir?
I do.
Have you seen that before?
Yes, I was shown it last Friday.
And what do you recognize it to be?
A portion of our text chain.
Okay, and when you say a portion, it's a limited time period within a much longer text chain. Is that fair to say?
That's correct.
And with regard to how you're able to recognize it, I'd like to just ask you a few questions. First of all, on the first page of that document, do you see a series of phone numbers?
I do.
And do you recognize your phone number on that text chain?
Yes.
And having reviewed that text chain on Friday, did you see that you had actually sent one text of the whole body of text that's included in what has been marked triple N for identification?
Yes.
In order to send that text message as of late January, early February of 2022, did your phone have a passcode on it?
Yes.
Have you had that for several years?
Yes.
In order to send a text chain, do you have to enter the passcode to your phone first to unlock it?
Correct.
And so it would have been you who sent that message.
Yes.
And having reviewed the content of that text chain, were you able to identify which entries were typed and sent by Michael Proctor?
Yes.
Who is he on that text chain?
He's listed as local user.
Okay, and it says local user, and there's a bunch of letters and numbers after that.
Correct.
Everybody else is identified by a phone number,
Yes, or a nickname.
and actually, even the ones with a nickname have a phone number, correct?
Correct. Yes.
So 3 of them have nicknames, correct?
Yeah, I see 2 on the first page here.
Do you see? Of the
Oh, 3rd on the bottom. Yes, I see
So
3.
you see
Yeah,
3 there?
Yes, yes.
And so of the 9, we have 3 nicknames with phone numbers, right?
Yes,
We have 8 phone numbers total, right?
yes,
And 1 local user.
correct,
And you've testified the local user is Michael Proctor.
correct.
And having known Michael Proctor for as long as you have, does he have any nicknames?
He does.
And what are his nicknames?
Chip and Bear.
Chip, C-H-I-P,
Yes,
and Bear, B-E-A-R.
correct.
And having reviewed that text chain, is that a true and accurate document documenting the texts that were sent in that chain for the time period that is listed on N for identification?
Yes.
Your Honor, I would offer that subject to our discussions outside the presence of the jury. May I take it back from the witness?
Yes. Thank you.
I have no further questions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Can I have Exhibit 209 when it's ready, please? Thank you. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Have we met before?
On Friday, I saw you. We didn't meet.
You had been friends with Mr. Proctor for about 30 years.
Yes,
Are you still friends with him?
I am.
Are you still close with him?
I am.
You were on a text chain with Mr. Proctor over the years.
Correct.
Did that include other friends of yours and Mr. Proctor's?
Did.
The extent of that text chain, did it go back many, many years?
Yes.
Have you ever looked at any records that summarize some of that text chain?
Yes.
Did it note that there were over 38,000 texts in that group?
I did notice the number, but it sounds accurate.
When there is conversations in that group, do you always respond to the conversation?
No.
There's a particular section or segment of those 38,707 text messages that were shown to you. Did you see that document?
I did.
Are you familiar with it now that you've seen it?
Now that I've seen it, yes.
In that document, are there inappropriate comments that your friend Michael Proctor made about one of his investigations?
There are.
Was it about this case here?
It was.
In those inappropriate comments, did other people on that text chain, not you, comment or respond to Mr. Proctor?
Yes.
In that text chain where Mr. Proctor made inappropriate comments, you did not respond to any of those inappropriate comments, did you?
Correct.
You're on the text chain at a point later on in conversations, but not relevant to the inappropriate comments.
Correct.
Did you know that Mr. Proctor was fired by the Massachusetts State Police because of his inappropriate comments?
Objection. May we vote, please?
Yeah, that's very misleading because he's not talking about he was fired for bias, and they actually called it appearance of bias. So it wasn't for just those comments; it was the bias that those comments stem from. So right there, it shows you how Brennan is being a Mr. Slickster here. So he basically just gave a misstatement to the jury here. So is the defense going to be allowed to speak the truth and make him, is a judge going to correct that and say, look, it wasn't just the statements, it's the statements that were found to indicate bias? I don't know why this whole thing has worked out where Brennan is the one that's doing this questioning. It's just really odd. I guess this witness did not feel comfortable saying the profane, vile words that Proctor said about Karen Reed. So this is an end run to bring in these comments as opposed to calling Proctor, but maybe Proctor is going to plead the fifth. We just don't know exactly what they're working out, but this is, I've never seen something like this where you're bringing in other statements through another
Question and
party,
answer.
and you're letting the prosecutor do the line of questioning to introduce these comments.
Sir, do you know?
I mean, he doesn't have to bring this up that he was fired. I mean, just bring in these statements. He's trying to go off script here and bring up other stuff to try to minimize the effect of these horrendous statements he gave. So this is, again, part of the Brennan spin. And the judge is probably going to rubber stamp it.
Oh, if Mr. Proctor was fired from the Massachusetts State Police.
I do.
Did he tell you why?
It was in connection to this case. I believe it was based on his text messages that were sent to us.
Based on these comments that are in exhibit?
Correct.
Did you at any time ever defend or endorse these comments?
I did not.
Okay, so he got away with that lie to the jury right here. The judge didn't give an instruction saying, you know, this needs to be cleaned up here, Brennan. How's this going to be cleaned up? His misstatement to the jury, in front of the jury here.
Did you ever encourage him in his comments?
I did not.
May I approach?
Yes.
Handed you exhibit 209.
Thank you.
On the first page, ending in the numbers 27, there's a fuller number, but I'll just use the last two numbers. Bottom right, 27. Is there a number of redacted phone numbers?
But he never told anything to Proctor. Hey, knock it off. Hey, that's offensive. Hey, you know, you're an officer on an active murder case and you're talking to us about it. That's not really, we should not be hearing this. So better stand down.
I'm sorry. On the first page on the bottom of the page?
If you look to the bottom right of the page, there's a number on it.
Oh, yes. And then it's blacked out next to it.
Yes.
Yes.
The last two numbers, is it 27?
Yes, it is.
When you look at that first page, does it have a number of redacted phone numbers of different people?
I don't see anything redacted.
The top box, are there numbers?
There
Phone
are numbers, yes.
Are they partially blacked out?
No, the display names, it just lists phone numbers.
Okay. Are those numbers you recognize as the group of friends, including Michael Proctor?
They are.
As you read down that first box and go down to number of messages, do you see that?
Oh, yes.
Is it 38,707?
Yes.
Is that for a time period between October 18, 2021 and August 31st, 2022?
Yes.
I'd like you to look at the third text message that begins with Chip. Without saying who it is, do you recognize that as one of the people in the group?
I do.
And what did the person write?
Chip, name of that BPD cop.
And at the time this conversation was happening, were you part of this immediate conversation?
I was not.
Turn the page. Bottom right number is ending in 28. Do you see that page?
Yes.
Okay. Instead of a name, there's a local user with an ID. Is that Mr. Proctor's?
Yes, it is.
And does he respond to Chip, name of that BPD cop?
He does.
What does he say?
John O'Keefe.
What is the next question from somebody in the group?
How old?
And what does Mr. Proctor respond?
He took custody of his sister's kids.
The next one?
She died of cancer and the father overdosed on her.
See, this kind of stuff about sympathy ploy to John O'Keefe is something that Brennan's trying to introduce because he's trying to get sympathy for Proctor having this rant of profanity and vile comments about Karen Reed. He's trying to have it somewhat justified.
Her grave.
And then one of the group sends a message. What do they say?
Oh man, that's rough.
And what's Mr. Proctor's response?
Mid-40s.
Does somebody in the group then post a Facebook posting?
Yes.
Do you know what that's about?
I do not.
You can turn the page ending bottom right 29.
Yes.
Somebody in the group ask another question.
Yes.
What do they say?
What's that? Don't have the book anymore.
If you could just speak up just a little so it's hard to hear with the fan on, not your
Sure.
phone.
What's that? Don't have the book anymore.
How does Mr. Proctor respond?
This one is a nightmare. Forget about the kids. That's awful.
And then I'd like you to go down to Mr. Proctor's next comment.
But all the powers that be want answer ASAP.
And what does one of the group respond with?
Gotcha.
Mr. Proctor,
Couldn't open it either.
do you know what he was talking about when he said he couldn't open it?
I'm guessing the Facebook link.
I'd like you to turn forward to bottom right 3-1. Do you see what that is?
Yes, I do.
What is it?
John O'Keefe's Facebook page.
What does it tell us about John O'Keefe?
He went to Braintree High School, studied criminal justice at Northeastern, joined Facebook in 2008.
Turn the page, please. The first line from Bird, and I'll note this is January 29, 2022 at 10:56:39 p.m. Did I read that accurately?
Yes.
And what does the person say?
I'm sure the owner of the house will receive some shit.
And could you read Mr. Proctor's 2 responses?
Nope. Homeowner is a Boston cop too.
If you could turn to the next page, ending on 33. This is January 29, 2022 at 10.
So right there, he's admitting through being a Boston cop, he's not going to have anything come back on him, i.e. they're not even going to search his house.
10:57:21 p.m. Could you read Mr. Proctor's 2 comments?
She waffled him. I looked at his body at the hospital.
And one of the group asks a question.
She waffled him in quotation marks.
And how does he respond?
He was banged up.
Somebody in the group asks another question. What do they ask?
I thought he was drunk. Did he get beat up?
And Mr. Proctor's response?
Nope.
Turn to the next page, ending in 34. This is at around 10:58:06 p.m., running through 10:59 p.m. Another question from the group. What did they ask?
So the owner of the house was a woman cop that beat him.
And Mr. Proctor's 2 responses?
That's what I initially thought after talking to Canton paramedic. Then I saw the guy.
One of the group asks further down, what does... Sir, if you could either speak much louder or bring the microphone closer. We have a couple fans back here. It's just difficult to hear.
Okay, sorry about that.
That's not your fault. If we can keep our voice up. So one of the group asks, what does, quote, she waffled him, quote, end quote, mean? And then asks, what's the story? Does Mr. Proctor return?
He does.
What does he say?
She hit him with her car.
Turn to the next page, please, ending in 3:5. And these texts are from 10:59:13 p.m. to 11:08 p.m. The person by the name of Bird asks a question. What does he ask? What does he say?
Okay, that's fucked up.
How does Mr. Proctor respond?
Intentional or not?
And somebody in the group again.
Gotcha. He was frozen in the driveway and she didn't see him.
Mr. Proctor's 2 responses.
That's another animal we won't be able to prove.
And the next one.
They arrived at the house together, got into an argument. She was driving and left.
What does the friend say?
What's the name of the Canton cop living in Canton? The other one involved.
What does Mr. Proctor say?
Biffed him.
Turn to the next page, ending in 3:6. These run from January 29, 2022, 11 p.m. and 11 seconds to January 29, 2022, 11 p.m., 39 seconds. The first comment by somebody in the group.
The BPD have any jurisdiction here because it was their own?
And then if you could look where there's a comment from Whitey at 11 p.m., 27 seconds.
Liz has got the blueprint.
Liz has got the blueprint. Do you know who Liz is?
No.
Okay. And what's the next comment by Mr. Proctor?
Not had. It's the total opposite. They have to rescue themselves.
Would it
Recuse themselves,
thank
excuse
you.
me.
Recuse themselves?
Yes.
And then a comment by somebody in the group.
Laughed at. Liz has got the blueprint.
On the next page, Mr. Proctor's comment.
Same with Canton.
At January 29, 2022, 11:02 p.m. and 15 seconds, there's a comment from one person in the group, number ending in 5051. Could you read that?
But I assume you guys are out to make it cut and dry since it involves cops.
Next comment by Bird,
Something stinks.
and the comment by Mr. Proctor.
Yeah, but there will be some serious charges brought on the girl.
And the beginning of the next sentence is gotta be. And finally, the last comment on that page,
She hot at least.
and that's a question mark.
Yes.
Turn the page, please. Ending in 3:8. These messages begin at 11:05:57 p.m., run through 11:06:39 p.m. on January 29, 2022. Does it begin with comments from Mr. Proctor?
It does.
Could you read all of them, please?
These are not my words. I'm not really comfortable reading these. Do I have to say these words out loud?
So I'm going to see you at sidebar.
They're reading these texts to show this is the reason that the basis for Proctor being fired is that these hateful comments he made about Karen Reed showed that he had bias and that he was fired for bias and also because he was in that incident where he was drinking and driving with another officer in a patrol car, and they had left the weapon in the car. One of them left the weapon in the car overnight. So, but mainly it was because of his actions on this case that revealed he had the appearance of bias. They didn't say he actually was biased. They said he had the appearance of bias. So now they have a sidebar. Let's jump ahead. I think I was uncomfortable reading them or something, and so they decided to have
Thank you.
Brendan read them.
Sir, I'm
I don't
appreciating
get
that
it.
you're not comfortable with these words. These are not your words, are they?
No, they're not.
You didn't see them at the time.
I did not.
You've never condoned them or adopted them.
No.
In fact, you would denounce these, wouldn't you?
I would.
I don't want you to say words that are not yours. So I'll say the words, and I'm going to ask you if I'm reading accurately. Is that
So he never talked like this ever the whole time you've known him? I mean, is that what he's trying to say?
better?
Yes.
Is that a fairer way to do it?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know why Brendan's doing this at a defense, making this guy say it.
On January 29, 2022, 11 p.m., 5 minutes, 57 seconds. And this page ends at 11 p.m., 6 minutes, 39 seconds on January 29, 2022, ending in numbers 38. Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
Mr. Proctor says, from all accounts, he didn't do a thing wrong. She's a whack job, and then uses the C word to describe. Is that accurate?
That's accurate.
He then says, yeah, she's a babe. Weird Fall River accent, though. No ass. Those are words that he wrote.
Those are the words.
And there's a response at the bottom from one member.
It's just not having the same effect if you had Proctor having to say these. So it's just losing so much of what momentum defense could get from this. I don't know that you even need this at this point. If it's looking sort of like, it's all just dry and not in the right context, and so much of it's kept out.
Member in the group stating, oh, she's skating.
Yes.
Let's turn the page, ending in 3-9. These begin on January 29, 2022, 11:06 p.m., 55 seconds. Is that accurate?
Yes, it is.
Mr. Proctor responds, zero chance she skated. She's effed. She's fucked.
Yes,
Is that what he said?
it is.
And then one person in the group says, no ass bitch. Accurate?
Yes, that's accurate.
Mr. Proctor, there's a response, laughed at, quote, no ass bitch.
Yes.
So Brennan's the one saying all this. I mean, I don't get this. It's like it's being downplayed as not significant, and Brennan's then going to argue a spin about it in his closing.
If you could turn to a page that ends in 4-3. You ready?
Yes.
Somebody in the group says, is that chick a smoke? And then the same person follows.
Well, I disagree with you, Julia, because that's all he does is ask leading questions for the most part, especially on redirect. So,
Up with a
so
question
what?
mark. Accurate?
Accurate.
If you can't take on a guy who puts spin and deception on all his questions, then you're basically conceding you can't confront him and beat him with the truth.
Mr. Proctor responds, E-H,
Yes.
nutbag, as my chief would say.
Yes.
She's got a leaky balloon knot,
Yes.
leaks poo.
Yes.
Are those the words of Mr. Proctor?
They are.
Did I read those accurately?
You did.
And then a person in the group says, what are you guzzling on? And this is on, well, let me take a step back to be more clear. The comments I just read, those weren't on January 29th. Those were on February 2nd, 2022.
Correct.
And the time is 12:50 p.m. 12:50 and 5 seconds p.m. begin the
Oh,
page.
yes. Yes. Beginning of the page.
So
Yes.
these are different in time than the ones we read before, the series of text messages.
Correct.
And then at the bottom, one of the members of the group says, what are you guzzling on?
Correct.
And that's still February 2nd, 2022. And that's at 1:51:33 p.m.
Yes.
Yeah, it's in front of the jury.
And then if you can turn to page that ends on with numbers 44.
Yes.
And this is on February 2nd, 2022, 1:52:24. Mr. Proctor says, nothing, writing a warrant.
That's accurate.
There are no further text messages.
from Mr. Proctor?
Yes, or anybody in this group that you have as part of this exhibit?
That was not the last comment.
Okay, let me look. Okay. Is there another YouTube video?
There is
You were not part of any of these conversations with Mr. Proctor,
no.
but you're still friends with him?
I am.
In your conversations with Mr. Proctor, has he ever suggested that he planted evidence in this case or any other case?
No.
In your conversations with Mr. Proctor, has he ever suggested framing a defendant, including this defendant?
Absolutely not.
In all your conversations with Mr. Proctor, has he ever suggested?
So now you're allowed to have this guy defend Proctor in conversation. You talk about framing people. This is really strange.
Tampering with evidence in this case or in any other case?
No, absolutely not.
Mr. Proctor was fired?
He was.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
I don't get this, but
Sir, at the time Michael Proctor was revealing this information on this high school group chat, was this information public?
I have no memory one way or the other.
At the time Michael Proctor was texting these messages to you and your other high school friends, were Ms. Reed's medical conditions public? Did you know anything about Ms. Reed's medical conditions?
I didn't know anything about this case at all.
Michael Proctor was the one revealing those details about the case to you and anybody on the chat who cared to read them, correct?
Correct.
And you were asked questions about why Michael Proctor was fired, and I believe you answered in a shorthand way for these text messages. Were you aware he was fired for being biased?
I'm not aware of that.
Objection.
So the answer will stand.
Were you aware that he was fired for revealing confidential information about an investigation?
I was not aware of that.
And were you aware that he was also fired for conduct unbecoming?
yeah, Hank, why are you objecting? Because it was biased. Because you're the one that misled the jury and said it was because of these text messages. The basis was bias. That was the main gist of why he was fired.
A state trooper and a lead investigator in this case.
I was not aware of that.
I have no further questions.
You're not aware that he was fired for conduct unbecoming because of these text messages?
My understanding was it was due to the text messages. I don't know the other details of the situation.
Do you know he was not fired for any accusations of planting or tampering with evidence?
I do not know that.
Do you know that he was not fired for doing anything to compromise the integrity of the evidence in this investigation?
I do not know that.
All right.
Yeah, it is compromising if you're having the appearance of bias. That's why he's fired. So again, he's putting another spin on it. Wow. I wouldn't let him get away with this, but
So, sir, I am going to let you step down, and then, folks,
why? I don't know why Yannetti let them get away with that.
I have an instruction for you that I should have read at the time that text messages came in. You can leave them right with Madam Court Reporter,
Thank you.
and you're all set. Thank you.
Okay, so there's some bad stuff that came in about Proctor and the way he was talking about Karen Reed, but so the stuff the defense can use. So overall, I just don't like the approach here, and I just don't understand. Is Proctor invoking? Are they not able to get him subpoenaed? I just don't. I just wouldn't have let Brennan basically take over the case in chief for the defense by asking all the questions. He basically did some initial questioning and then handed over the rest of the questioning to Brendan, which is outside the scope of the direct in many ways. So anyway, it's I've never seen anything like this, but there's nothing per se damaging. I just think it's misleading some of the stuff Brennan has done here, and the defense has not pushed back hard enough with his judge about having the truth come out about why he was fired. And that last comment here I mentioned, so they didn't do anything to counter that back with this witness. Anyway, let's go ahead.
All right, so I've told you folks previously, but I've got an additional instruction here. Before, and I think so you know this and you'll hear it at the end of the case as well. Before you consider any electronic communication in your deliberations,
that's her
you must
instruction
first
on
find that it is more
text.
likely true than not that the person who authored or created or transmitted the communication was in fact the person alleged. And here we've heard it be Michael Proctor and high school friends, the testimony was, I believe.
Anyway, I'm just going to jump ahead here. Now we got Kelly Dever. She was a Boston police officer 2 years, 2 months, previously with the Canton Police Department. This is really something here. We got to watch this.
To Michael Proctor's state of mind and more. Okay.
Yes. Officer Kelly Dever to join us, please.
Okay. Morning.
Morning, ma'am.
May I inquire?
Yes.
Good morning. Could you state your name and spell
Here,
your
let me
last name?
get
for
this
viewers,
regular
please?
speed.
Kelly Dever, last name D-E-V-E-R.
It was Dever,
What do you do
not
for a living,
Dever.
President?
I'm a police officer,
Where are you employed?
Boston Police.
How long have you been so employed with the Boston Police Department?
2 years and a little over 2 months.
Where'd you work before that?
I worked for the Canton Police.
Were you a sworn officer at that time?
At what time?
When
When
you
I
worked
was
for the
employed there?
When you were employed by the Canton Police Department
Yes, I was.
as a sworn police officer?
Yes.
Okay. What was your duty assignment in January of 2022?
I was a patrol officer.
You're familiar with the case that's presently before the bench, correct?
In some capacity, yes.
Commonwealth versus Karen Reed.
Yes.
All right. Did you ever prepare any kind of report based on any of your conduct or your connection with this case, if there was any connection with this case, while you were a Canton police officer?
No.
Were you ever interviewed by any member of the Canton Police Department in furtherance of their investigation related to the death of John O'Keefe?
Just so y'all understand, FBI does not take written statements from people. They interview folks, and they're the ones that write stuff down, what the witness says, and then they make that as a formal report. So they don't actually have somebody like her, if they're going to interview her, write a statement out and get them to sign it.
No.
Were you ever interviewed by the Massachusetts State Police?
No.
Let me finish the question. I got to
Yeah.
finish the question, then you can answer it.
She's acting very unprofessional, extremely unprofessional. Doesn't even let him finish answering the question, asking the question.
It works a little better that way. Were you ever interviewed by any member of the Massachusetts State Police in furtherance of their investigation into the death of John O'Keefe?
No.
Were you ever interviewed by either the Canton Police Department or the Massachusetts State Police with regard to any of your observations on January 28th or January 29th, 2022?
No.
And you never wrote a report about your observations
Listen how she's like, no, just a snotty, snarky tone.
or any observations that you had on January 28th or January 29th, 2022, correct?
No.
That was a double negative. Let me try that a different way. Did you ever write a report about your observations related to January 28th, 2022, January 29th, 2022?
No.
Thank you. As a matter of fact, the first time you were ever interviewed in connection with anything having to do with this case or this investigation related to the death of John O'Keefe was by a separate law enforcement agency, not the Massachusetts State Police,
i.e.
not the
FBI.
Canton Police Department, correct?
Yes.
That was in August of 2023. Is that right?
Yes.
Do you remember the exact date?
No.
August 9th, 2020.
Look at her demeanor, the way she's coming across. I mean, she is acting very, very much like she's ready to rip his head off.
Does that sound right? About right?
I know it was the summer of 2023. So
Do you think it would refresh your recollection to take a look at a report of that interview?
yes, because I've never seen it before.
Just insofar as the date is concerned, may I approach?
Yes.
Thank you. Take a look at the bottom of that page. Just glance at that and tell me once you familiarize yourself with that face page of that report.
May I approach?
Yes.
Do you have that date in mind?
Yes,
Does that refresh your recollection that it was August 9th, 2023?
yes,
Okay. I want to direct your attention, Officer Dever, to January 28th, 2022. Where were you working? What was your duty assignment on that day, January 28th, moving into January 29th?
well, 3.5 years later, I remember I was on patrol. I don't remember anything further about this night.
Did you work overnight, like a late shift going into the morning of January 29th?
That was my assigned shift, so yes.
Okay. Who else was working with you on that particular day, if you recall?
Sergeant Good, Officer Mullaney, Officer Seraph, and Officer Pasquarelli.
And what generally was your assignment when you went into work that night on January 28th?
Patrol.
At some point, either that evening in the early morning hours of January 29th, did you note that a call came in related to a person found in the snow, unresponsive in the snow?
Yes.
Tell me about that, the nature of the call, and where were you?
I was in my cruiser. A call came in that said person in a snowbank, something along those lines. Immediately followed by that transmission, my sergeant requested that I come to take over dispatch.
Is that Sergeant Good?
Yes,
Okay. Did you, in fact, respond back to Canton PD to take over dispatch?
yes. So I was already in the parking lot of the Canton Police while this took place. So I was already at the station.
Did you note whether or not Sergeant Good and or any of the others responded to the location while you stayed back to handle dispatch at the police department?
Yes, that's why I went inside so he could respond.
Were you aware that Sergeant Good, did you have any knowledge at that time that Sergeant Good was familiar with or knew who Brian Albert was?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you know who Brian Albert was at
No.
that time?
No,
Do you now? At least
because of
familiar
this
with the name.
case, yes.
I spoke over you. I'm so sorry. Based on this case, are you familiar with the name?
The name, yes.
Did you know Kevin Albert?
No. Oh, the detective Kevin Albert. Yes, I did.
He
Correct.
worked
How did you know
with
Kevin
him.
Albert?
He was a detective for the Canton Police.
Were you aware of his relationship to Brian Albert at that time?
No.
Are you now aware of his relationship with Brian Albert?
Yes, from the media.
And what is that relationship as you know it?
Sustained.
Did you know Brian Higgins at that time?
Yes, in passing.
I'm not asking if you're social friends, asking if you knew who he was.
Yes,
How'd you know who Brian Higgins was?
he had an office in the Canton Police.
Was he a sworn police officer?
Not for us.
Was he a sworn federal agent?
Yes.
Worked for ATF?
Yes.
Okay. How long had you known and been familiar with Brian Higgins? Say, for instance, by sight, to be able to recognize who he was.
Sometime during 2020 is when I was probably first familiarized with him, because that's when I was employed with the Canton Police Department first.
Okay. Pass him in the hallways, hi, bye, things like that.
Yes.
Sustained is to four, Mr. Jackson.
Understood. Did you know him by sight?
Yes.
Could you recognize him if you saw him?
2.5 years later, no, but at the time, yes.
I'm not asking you about right now. I'm asking you back in January 2022. Could you recognize him by sight?
Yes.
Did you know who Kenneth Berkowitz was?
Yes.
Who is Kenneth Berkowitz?
He was the chief of the Canton Police.
Obviously very familiar with him. He was your boss, correct?
Yes.
When Sergeant Good instructed you to take over dispatch, explain what that meant.
It meant I walked inside and I sat down in a dispatch room.
Describe the dispatch room. What did that array look like?
There was chairs and computers.
Monitors?
Yes.
Does the dispatch area also have monitors of internal security camera footage?
I know there was camera screens, but I don't know if they were on TVs or computers or where in dispatch they were. I don't recollect where they were or how they would be accessed. They were in the room somewhere. I can't be more specific. I don't remember.
But you do recall seeing that there were monitors that were showing different views of internal security camera footage of Canton PD, correct?
The specifics, no. Were there? Yes.
I don't know what you mean by specifics. I'm asking you, were there monitors that you could look at that showed security camera footage from inside Canton PD, different areas, hallways, corridors, offices, the Sally port, for instance?
So 2.5 years since
You keep saying 2.5 years later.
So let her finish her answer and then ask the question.
Sure.
It's been years since I've been in that room. They were somewhere in the room. Where cameras were in the Canton Police Department, I don't recall. The media's provided me information since this case took place, and I can't
I thought the same thing, Stevie, how weakest link of FBI would start charging. We'll get to that later.
speak on what's my recollection and what's been media provided. There are cameras. I don't know where on my memory
So,
where they are.
so has the media informed you that there were internal security
Objection.
monitors at the dispatch location?
So the objection is sustained. Next question.
Why does it matter how she got that information?
What do you recall from the dispatch room, as you put it? What do you recall being there in terms of monitors?
I remember there was a computer screen that had information about current calls, and then there was a 911 screen next to that. Those are the two computers that I would have been positioned in front of during this time.
As a dispatch officer, by the way, you were a sworn officer at
Yes.
that time, correct? Uniform, badge, gun, the whole works, right?
Yes.
Had you ever been in the Sally port at Canton PD?
Yes.
What's the Sally port?
A Sally port is a garage, essentially.
Okay. You were aware that the Sally port garage had a camera, a security camera?
It would make sense because that's where we bring prisoners to drop them off.
Well, more than just makes sense. I'm asking you, do you recall that it had cameras that serviced the Sally Port garage? Security cameras.
It's where we brought prisoners, so there would be cameras, yes.
Okay, you're saying there would be cameras. I'm asking you, were there cameras?
According to the media, yes. I've seen the footage, so yes, there were cameras.
All right, so hold on. So I'm going to strike that, officer. You have to answer the question based on.
So I didn't see that. Did she actually have a lawyer as well? So another cop involved in this case that has a lawyer that lawyered up?
Your own independent methods, okay? And if you don't have them, tell us, but you can't reference what you know from the media.
All right. There were cameras in the Sally port.
Thank you. Ms. Dever, do you want to be here today?
I have no relation to this case,
I
so
didn't ask you that. I asked you if you want to be here today.
Objection. This isn't direct.
So it's your witness.
I understand.
She can, no comments, just questions, not, I understand that.
Okay, you know what? Brennan does that kind of stuff all the time. This is such a one-sided. Anyway,
You want to be here today now?
look at her attitude.
I am put on the stand in a murder trial. I don't know why I'm here. I have no connection to this case.
You have no idea why you're here?
That's not true. She knows through following the media, she knows what she reported to the FBI initially implicates Higgins and the chief of police there, Berkowitz. Because well, we'll get into that.
You've never talked to me. Nobody on the fence team's talked to me since prior to the first trial. So I don't have any idea why I'm here.
Okay, wait, let's go back.
I am put on the stand in a murder trial.
Is she trying to get sympathy here? Trying to make it look like she should not be here? You're in the wrong. I know nothing about this case, and you're calling me as one of your early witnesses on your defense case in
I don't know
chief.
why I'm here. I have no connection to this case.
Sorry, but you do, and you do know that you had a strong enough connection for the FBI to come interview you.
You have no idea why you're here?
You've never talked to me. Nobody on the fence seems to talk to me since prior to the first trial. So I don't.
Of course, you know, because they asked you questions and you try to backtrack and say, no, they were incorrect, what you originally had said.
Have any idea why I'm here.
No clue whatsoever.
How could she not know? She gave a statement to the FBI that incriminated the ATF agent Higgins and also the chief of police there at Canton. And you really don't know why on this case, how that was relevant?
As you sit here, why do you mind being called to the stand?
No.
Okay, there you go. She's just trying to backtrack from her earlier statements. She's playing dumb. So why is she doing this?
Are you uncomfortable testifying?
No, it's part of my job.
You're a professional police officer, correct?
Correct.
Look at her attitude.
That means you're a professional witness to a certain degree, correct?
In the crimes that I've gone on the stand before, yes, I have been.
And you understand the oath?
Yes, I do.
What is that oath?
The oath is to tell the truth.
The whole truth and nothing but the truth, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
I'll rephrase it. Is there more to that oath?
Why are you objecting, Hank? She's not swearing to tell the whole truth.
Will you raise your right hand as a witness?
I'm objecting.
So I'm going to see it side by for just.
Sure.
Okay, back up here.
I'll rephrase it. The oath?
Yes, I do.
What is that oath?
The oath is to tell the truth. In
Testifying?
no, it's part of my job.
You're a professional police officer, correct?
Correct.
That means you're a professional witness to a certain degree, correct?
In the crimes that I've gone on the stand before, yes, I have been.
And you understand the oath?
Yes, I do.
What is that oath?
The oath is to tell the truth.
The whole truth and nothing but the truth, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
I'll rephrase it.
Why is that an objection? Why would that be sustained? You can remind somebody they're under oath, but I guess they don't want the truth again, right? This trial is not a court of law because the truth is not supposed to come out here.
Is there more to that oath? Will you raise your right hand as a witness?
I'm objecting.
So I'm going to see it side by for just.
Sure.
Yeah, you're getting too close to the truth there, AJ. We got to derail your momentum here. More wasted time. She's got to throw in a lifeline to Hank here. Yeah, imagine that.
Thank you, Your Honor. May I inquire?
More oath
Thank you.
coming in. She might crack if she's reminded she's under oath. Yeah, it's a clown show, all right.
One of the cameras, one of the monitors that you had access to back on January 29th did show the footage from, or did it show the footage from that, one of the other Sallyport garage cameras?
Can you rephrase the question?
Sure, it was a little bit clunky on my part. Did one of the monitors that you looked at, that you had access to at the dispatch area, did it show the video footage or the video feed from the Sallyport garage?
So I already said I don't remember where in dispatch the screen with the cameras was. There was a camera in the Sallyport. So if I'm going to make the assumption, then yes, of course. But now that's an assumption.
I'm not asking you for an assumption now. I'm asking you, did one of the feeds, now we've talked about the camera, the other side of the camera is the feed. Do you recall whether or not there was footage that you could see on a monitor in the dispatch area that showed the Sallyport?
I'm going to go with yes.
Okay.
Clarification.
How long?
So I don't know what that means. So what do you mean you're going to go with yes? Is your answer yes?
She doesn't want to say yes, but she knows it's true.
Yes.
Thank you. What time about did you take over the dispatch desk that morning?
Immediately following when the 911 call came in.
Would have been 6-ish in the morning. Does that sound about right?
Sometime I would say towards the later of my shift, but it was the middle of winter and dark out. So I don't know if it was 4, 5, 6.
Understood. But it was still dark out.
Yes.
Once you took over the dispatch desk, did you stay there even past your normal shift ending to support the investigation that was ongoing?
Not to support the investigation. I was just on overtime.
Okay. So you stayed past your normal end time of your shift that day.
Yes, on overtime.
You stayed into the afternoon, correct?
I believe the shift ended at 3:45 p.m. for the Canton police.
But you stayed past your ending shift time, correct?
Correction.
I'm sorry, I'll rephrase it. Did you stay past your ending shift time?
For my regular shift, yes, because I was on overtime on the day shift.
Did you observe anything unusual that stood out in your mind that occurred, pardon me, in the Sally Port while you were on that shift?
So we've discussed this previously. I can't make that statement on the stand because I've been provided information released by the defense that it was not a memory, that it was a distorted memory. Therefore, I can't state it because at this point it would be a lie. I cannot make that statement that you're wanting me to
Distorted
make on the
memory,
stand
keep that
because
in
I've
mind.
advised that that would be a lie.
Ms. Dever, I've never asked you to make a statement one way or the other on the stand. I'm asking you an open-ended question.
Okay,
Did
so
you,
prior
let
to
me
the
ask you a
first,
question. Did you observe something in the Sallyport garage on January 29th, 2022 that you found unusual, that stuck out in your mind?
given factual information that makes it so I know I did not, no,
So the answer is no.
correct.
Do you remember being interviewed on August 9th, 2023?
I do,
That was by a separate law enforcement agency, correct?
yes,
2 separate law enforcement agents, is that right?
yes,
And you were advised during the course of that interview on August 29th of something, correct?
can you rephrase
I'm sorry,
that?
August 9th.
So what was I advised of? Can you rephrase that?
Sure. Were you advised that lying to those officers would be a crime?
So it was a willing conversation. I've spoken with their legal team. Because of the fact I was providing factual information that showed a statement of mine was a false memory, it was not a lie. Therefore, I made it in good faith and I retracted given information that it could not be accurate.
Which is,
Ms. Dever, did you understand my question?
that's a
Yes,
lot
I
of,
did. You threatened to charge me with perjury during our phone call prior to the first trial if I didn't lie on the stand right now. I'm telling you,
yeah, he said, if you don't lie, we're going to report you for perjury. See how she's putting a spin on it, just like with Brennan?
I did not see anything. Factually, I've been provided evidence by a timeline that it is not correct.
Ms. Dever, my question was this. Were you advised that it was a crime to lie to those law enforcement agents? Yes or no?
No,
They never told you, they never admonished you that it would be a crime to lie to them?
Objection.
Sustained as to form, Mr. Jackson.
Sure. Did they advise you of anything? Any consequences of lying to them?
so we had a willing
That's
conversation.
yes or no?
I don't recall.
So, okay, there's your answer.
You don't recall if they advised you of anything?
You'd remember that. You'd remember that if the FBI gave you that warning in advance.
No, because it
Okay,
wasn't.
As a trained law enforcement agent.
Go ahead and ask a question, but both of you only one at a time, okay?
Understood. As a trained law enforcement officer, are you aware that it's a crime to lie to certain other law enforcement agents?
When you have intent to lie, yes.
Okay. So you knew that when you spoke.
different states, it's not a crime to lie to law enforcement officers. With the FBI, it's always a lie. That's what Martha Stewart got convicted on. They couldn't prove anything about insider trading, but she was convicted for giving false statements about insider trading.
Spoke to these law enforcement officers, correct?
Yes,
Did you tell these law enforcement officers that you, in fact, saw Brian Higgins and Chief Berkowitz go into the Sallyport with the
Objection.
SUV? May I finish my question?
You can finish this question. Go ahead.
Did you tell those law enforcement agents on August
Yep.
9th, 2023, that you saw Brian Higgins and Chief Berkowitz go into the Sallyport together and alone with the SUV for a wildly long time?
that was my recollection at the time.
So you did say that.
At the time, that is what I recollected.
Okay.
That's really critical. I mean, that's really damning. So she's got Higgins, who's directly conflicted. He was there at the scene at 34 Fairview, and he's hanging out there. We saw him, the other video of him hanging around the police station at 1:30 to 2 in the morning, messing around with different big duffel bags, acting very suspicious. She also saw him the next day there with the chief of police, Berkowitz. They're hanging out there an extraordinarily long time, hanging around the Sallyport where Karen Reed's SUV is.
Did you indicate that you noted
I should have asked, was her lawyer there at the time?
I may have just a moment, Your Honor.
Sure.
You and I spoke along with Mr. Unetti and Ms. Little on a conference call last year sometime. You remember that?
Yes,
Between the time that you were interviewed on August 9th, 2023, and when we spoke sometime in maybe it was April or so of last year, does that sound about right?
yes.
Did you have any conversation with any other party about your potential involvement in this case?
No,
Also, he didn't pick up on so far about her saying she talked to the other agency's lawyers. Why would she be talking to the lawyers? It's hard to find the lawyers. They're not like in the phone book to find out what number to call. Lawyers for the FBI, that is.
Did you have a conversation with anybody in the commissioner's office at Boston Police Department?
not about anything malicious.
I didn't use the word malicious. Why do you say malicious?
I had a conversation, but it was my department saying, regardless of what I need to say on the stand, they support me.
You were asked to go to the commissioner's office, correct?
Yes,
How long had you been on the Boston Police Department at the time that you were invited to go up to the Commissioner Michael Cox's office?
it had to have been before the first trial. So
think about that. She's invited to the Boston Commissioner's office before the first trial. That is so much an indicator they're concerned about what she's going to say.
and I know it was when the agency released information to outside people.
That's not my question.
Okay, so I don't recall.
Okay. You don't recall how long you had been on the force, generally, at the time that you were called up to the commissioner's office, on the Boston Police Department?
No,
Was it 5 years, 2 years, 2 months? Give me a ballpark.
so I've been on the department for 2 years and 2 months. I would say somewhere in the range of a year.
Okay. Did you find it unusual for a Would you call yourself a rookie back then?
Yes,
Did you find it unusual that a rookie police officer would be called up to the commissioner's office personally to
I-
discuss a matter?
it was a reflection of how good of a leader he is. It was not anything that I found unusual, given the fact he is someone who wanted to show support for his officer.
So
So he's worried that you got to talk about this case involving Kieran Reed, and he calls you up there to show support. Really?
I'm guessing all of your training class or all of your entry classes at Boston PD, they've all gone up to the commissioner's office as well?
I don't know anyone else who's been in this particular circumstance.
Do you know anybody else who's been called up to the commissioner's office at your level at the Boston Police Department?
Objection.
Sustained.
Do you know of any of your
Yeah, keep that out.
colleagues with your level of experience that have been called up to the commissioner's office for a specific instance?
Objection.
That's sustained.
Now, when you went up to the commissioner's office, did you respond to his indication he wanted to see you up in his office?
It wasn't a direct line of contact from him.
Okay. Did you respond? Did you ultimately go? That's what I mean by respond. Did you go to his office?
He's my boss, so yes.
Okay. And who else was in that office?
Me and him, the two of us.
General counsel of the Boston Police Department?
No, it's just me and him.
During the conversation that we had last year, did you say that general legal counsel for the Boston Police Department was also there?
Objection.
Not during
Sustained.
that conversation.
Objection.
Next question.
Sure.
Sure. I mean, she just said not that. She's trying to say not that meeting, but later. So follow up. What meeting was the legal counsel for the city of Boston there? So she's already talked to FBI. She admitted talking to FBI lawyers. There's been no follow up. She's talking about having a conversation with legal there for Boston, the city of Boston, their police department.
Was there another time that you went to the commissioner's office where general legal counsel was there?
No,
Have you ever met general legal counsel for the Boston Police Department?
yes,
Was it in the commissioner's office?
no.
When was it?
During my conversation with the agents.
You took a lawyer with you to talk to this other law enforcement agency?
I'm going to see your type out on this.
Yeah, getting too close to the truth here. What's going on there? Did Brennan say something? I think the judge is doing this on her own. Ben Hook, show of authority. Don't need to say anything. Just be in the room as a boss and a rookie. Yeah, exactly. Rookies aren't called up to the chief of police, the commissioner. Unless there's something they did wrong or they're about to do wrong. And they don't have to say it in specific means about, hey, you know, you're not going to testify bad about a fellow officer, right? There's just ways they can say things that even if it was transcribed, you had an audio tape, there's nothing directly that they're going to say, hey, don't say anything bad about any police officer or ruin your career.
May I continue, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Dever, when we left off, I was asking you about the meeting at the commissioner's office. And I want to clear this up. Was general legal counsel in that office or not when you had a meeting with the commissioner, Michael Cox?
No, it was just me and the commissioner.
At some point, did the commissioner say to you that Boston Police Department, insofar as your connection to this case is concerned, Boston Police Department fully supports you?
Yes,
Did he also say, do the right thing?
that's a direct quote. So I can't recollect if he said a direct quote 2 years ago.
A year ago, when you talked to us, the defense, did you tell the defense that when you were called up to the commissioner's office, he told you two things? Commissioner Cox told you, number one, Boston Police Department supports you, and Officer Deaver, do the right thing.
So he said my name correctly. He said Dever. And
That's my mistake. Let's see, like, you want me to repeat the question so I get the
So,
name right?
Mr. Jackson, let's go ahead and answer, please.
yes, and he said nothing with the intent of guiding me one way or the
I didn't ask you
other.
what his intent was, madam. I asked you what he said to you. What were his words to you?
Sort of a slip there. She knows what the intent was. That's why you slipped out and said that.
That he supports
Yeah, isn't
me.
that interesting?
Just wanted me to tell the truth up here.
And his words were, do the right thing.
Why would he question you not telling the truth? He's going to call you up there alone to tell you, hey, look, we got your back. Like, what are you afraid? Why would you be afraid of not telling the truth?
Right?
I don't recall.
How many other times have you testified in a court of law? During the course of your job?
2 dozen, 3 dozen.
And
Actually testified probably ballpark a dozen times.
in any of those other cases, has Commissioner Michael Cox called you up to his office to discuss your testimony in any of those cases? Yes or no?
Yeah, I can tell you it's very, very unusual also to have someone alone if there's something that's concerned about. You want other witnesses in the room. So just the commissioner having just her alone there and making comments and not having a witness. It's this looks like the way that things are done to intimidate people from speaking the truth. That's the way it would work in any kind of large organization. And this kind of stuff happens in the military as well. So yeah.
That's not a yes or a no answer.
Well,
In a big police department like this, how often would the chief of police even know somebody like her? Somebody that's new to the department.
yes, it actually is, Ms. Dever.
So no comments, okay? Just,
You understand the question?
The question, yes. The implication,
The question is, in any of those, I'm asking you an open-ended question. In any of those cases, Officer Dever, not including this one, has Commissioner Michael Cox ordered you up to his office to discuss your testimony?
no.
Thank you.
all right, Mr. Brennan.
Good morning.
I mean,
Good morning.
just her whole demeanor, I think, confirms with the fact that AJ's trying to bring out here, which is she's nervous, she's scared, she knows her career's on the line, and she knows she was warned. That's why she's terrified. That's why she's trying to backtrack off her statement she initially gave to the FBI. Those are very detailed things she gave, saying Higgins and Berkowitz were there a wildly long time, not just a brief time, but a wildly long time there in this alley port, hanging out there after Karen's SUV was brought there. So that looks very dirty. She's alleging something that's very dirty against those two people. She wasn't sophisticated enough and knowledgeable enough on how the blue code of silence works that she didn't realize she needs to button it and not talk to the defense about that. So, and now she's like caught between, you know, she can't get around this issue. She had called the FBI and alerted them that, oh, by the way, that was a false memory that I told you in those details of what happened with those two other officers. So anyway, so what's she going to do? Come back to original story when she's testifying here now? So what she's looking at is if she implicates these two other officers, Berkowitz and ATF agent Higgins, then she's going to be known as a rat against the blue wall of silence, and she's going to probably be fired and canned. So, and she's already retracted her statement to the FBI that says, oh no, all that was a falsified memory or false memory. And she also says distorted memory based on time. And well, is this also tying into the tapes that we saw? There's some tape period that was deleted from the Sally Port. I don't know if I don't recall if it was that late at the time that on the 29th that she's talking about, late in the afternoon. But anyway, it's definitely looking like it's very shady and dirty, and somebody put her under the gun and threatened her career. That's how she's looking like here. And she's mad because defense is making her go through this, and she's in a mental torture here because she knows the only way she can save her career is she sticks with her revised story. And yeah, if that's true, she got transferred in a $80,000 promotion shortly after her FBI statement. That's the kind of things that could happen to try to show somebody, hey, we're going to take care of you, but you better take care of us. But yeah, I think she'd be the one that she could crack if the feds put pressure on her. She'd be the one to crack. It sounds like she's got a lawyer there from what somebody said earlier. So yeah, if she's had a lawyer there, I don't know why defense doesn't bring that up for all these cops that have their lawyers there holding their hand.
Thanks, sir.
My name's Hank Brennan. We have never met before.
Correct.
Have you ever spoken to me before?
No.
The defense team.
Well, what about Lally? Did you use Lally as your surrogate to talk to her that way and get the information? Were you listening on the phone when he talked to her? When Lally talked to this officer?
Jackson asked you some questions this morning.
Yes.
It sounds like you've met them before.
Only by phone call.
How many times have you spoken to Attorney Jackson or anybody on the defense team before today?
Prior to the first trial, it was one phone call where we discussed.
Yeah, let's do the right thing. Why would you say that? Hey, we got your back. You know, don't worry about things. Why would you even have to say that? Just to let her testify and not put any pressure. Just by fact you're meeting with her puts pressure on her, like, hey, is he pressuring me to not drop a dime on somebody? And let's do the right thing for the code of silence, the blue wall of silence. That's what it looks like.
The case. Outside of that, there may have been one other phone call before the first trial, but it wasn't a discussion of the case. And then prior to this trial, I received a phone call that said, confirm you will be available for one of these days.
Other than confirming you'd be available, was there any discussion before this trial with anybody on the defense?
Not about this case, no.
So the conversation, the substantive conversation was before the past event last year?
Yes, a year and a few months ago.
You worked at the Canton Police Department?
Yes, I did.
You were a police officer?
Yes, I was.
And it sounds like on January 29, 2022, at some point you were asked to attend the desk?
Yes.
The desk is at the front of the police department where you see people coming in and out of the police station?
Yes, there's glass windows.
That night, did you have any difficulty with your memory of the specific things that you saw that night?
I was never on the scene. I never spoke to a witness. I never met a victim. I never spoke with a suspect. This was just a random shift for me 3.5 years ago.
It's critical.
At a desk that I wasn't asked to recollect for about a year and a half after the occurrences of that night.
But it's a very significant night. And you obviously thought something's very shady and hokey going on with Berkowitz, the chief of police, and Higgins, who you then knew was implicated with being there at 34 Fairview and hanging out with John O'Keefe that night.
Did law enforcement, not the state police or Canton police, did law enforcement ask you about your memory sometime after that night?
The agents asked me about a year and a half later. It was the August of 2023 meeting. So actually a year and 8 months later was the first time I ever spoke about this case.
When they spoke to you a year and 8 months later, did you suggest or share or tell them that you might have seen Chief Berkowitz and Mr. Higgins near the Sallyport area?
I told them on the day of that I saw that. I didn't make any indications it was anything bad. I just said I saw them. And it was in good faith that I believed I saw that. That was the extent of that comment.
So you had told them you believed you saw Mr. Berkowitz and Mr. Higgins in the Sallyport area that day?
On January 29th during my day shift, yes.
Did you then learn any information that helped you remember when your shift ended that day?
So I know my shift ended at 3:45 p.m. So I know that I left then. That wasn't ever one of my questions. The defense released a timeline right prior to the first trial that the vehicle on that day did not arrive in the Sallyport until about an hour and a half after I left, meaning it is not possible that I saw that.
When you saw this information, did you think
Oh,
about
yeah.
your memory?
So when I saw that information, it made it clear to me that there was a distortion of the timeline, and the false memory I created, I provided in good faith, but I retracted immediately, being provided evidence that it was
But wait, she said she was working overtime. She's working overtime and it was dark. It's not dark at 3:45.
not possible.
Who did you retract it to? Who did you tell?
So I told the defense team
Can't even keep her story straight right here from direct across.
prior to the first trial. I also contacted the agents. The agents assured me that good faith.
Not what they said, but what you thought. Not what they said to you, but
Did
how.
they threaten to put you in jail when you told them about your mistake?
No, I even spoke with the legal team and they said that I made a comment in good faith. There was absolutely no way that I could be charged with anything of being malicious.
Before we get to your conversation with the defense team, now I wasn't there in that conversation, was I?
No.
Have you ever shared that conversation with me?
I've never shared it with anyone.
Before we get to that, you seem a bit anxious. Are you anxious?
Confused as to why I'm here, but anxious now.
Are you, have you received any negative pushback because of you sharing your memory? Objection.
I'm going to allow that.
No.
Have you received any unwarranted attention from the public or media?
Not to my knowledge, but I didn't go digging to find it.
When you mentioned the media sent you something, what did they send you?
So I've seen things in the media. No media has ever been direct.
What's media got to do with this, Hank? You're always trying to keep out media and her memory and stuff of what's going on. Now all of a sudden media's her and your
For me.
friend.
To find it. It's just this case is unavoidable as a local person on the internet who sees things that get shared.
So inevitably, you were contacted by the defense.
Yes, prior to the first trial.
You mentioned that somebody had suggested you be charged with perjury.
Yes.
Who did that?
One of the male members of the defense team.
Why did they say that to you? Objection.
Sustained.
What were you discussing when you were threatened with perjury?
They were essentially telling me what they were looking for me to say on the stand.
What were they looking for you to say?
They were looking for me to say that I saw Higgins and Berkowitz in the garage with the car.
Did you share with them that that wasn't an accurate memory?
Yes.
How did they respond?
But you had earlier told the FBI that's what happened, and then you're trying to recant it. So obviously they're concerned about your waffling here and your 180-degree testimony, the kind that looks like somebody got to you. Of course they're going to say, do you realize that we could call you to trial and you're going to have to testify the truth? And if you don't, that's perjury. So that'd be something that would be a normal thing to pursue in a line of questioning by the defense team. And look what kind of spin her and Hank are trying to make out of this.
They became very aggressive, raised their voices. And the one word that I can very definitely remember is they said that they would charge me with perjury.
What did they want you to say?
Okay, defense counsel are not police, they're not district attorneys, and they don't run grand juries. So that is not even credible and believable that a defense attorney would say that the way she's saying it. Anyway, they could try to say it's perjury and we'll pursue that through law enforcement, but she works for law enforcement. They're not going to listen to defense counsel on a murder case?
They wanted me to say that statement, although I knew at that point it was not an accurate statement given the timeline.
How many times were you threatened with perjury?
At least once during the phone call, but once you say it once, it was enough.
What else happened during that phone call? Tell us the tenor of it. Tell us the content of it.
That was essentially the thing I remember most because I understood that was what they wanted me to provide for the trial. I was never called for the first trial. Therefore, I'm not exactly sure what else there is for me to say.
So how would you, even if your timeline was off, how would you not know what you claim to see, which is Berkowitz and Higgins there in the Sally Port hanging out around Karen's SUV for a wildly long time? How is that something you would miss on a timeline? What's the timeline got to do with when you saw that happen? Because now you're gone. It's your memory's completely fabricated. Those are two very, very detailed things to say about people, that they're hanging out there in the Sally Port and they're also there around Karen's SUV. That's what you told the FBI, and now you're completely backtracking that and calling a false memory a distorted memory. It's not credible. This is completely not credible.
When the one thing that they wanted on the stand, it is factually not correct and cannot be provided.
When they threatened you to charge you with perjury, tell us what your state of mind was. Your demeanor.
Disappointment that legal counsel would go that route with someone who is, from a factual timeline, saying something is incorrect. There was no retracting based on emotion. It was very clear, given the timeline, it could not be correct.
Now, you work for the Boston Police Department.
Yes.
And by the way, when you were with Canton, did you ever talk to anybody about looting or planting evidence or doing anything like that?
No, and this conspiracy theory came out a year and a half later. I was gone.
Did anybody from Canton ever try to suggest to you you should or shouldn't say something to help her side of the case?
No, because I was never spoken to until far after I left.
Did you ever see anybody in this case or any time when you were with Canton doing something improper and tampering with evidence?
Not in this case or any case.
If you had, would you have reported it?
Yes.
Sustain.
Move to strike.
I'll strike that, ladies and gentlemen.
So you transferred to the Boston Police Department. Has anybody from the Boston Police Department ever suggested that you should lean your testimony one way or another?
No.
Has anybody from the Boston Police Department?
There's ways of saying things like do the right thing. Just do the right thing is a threat to her career. Okay, that's the way it works in the real world. I've been threatened before for winning too many cases in the military as a defense attorney. I was threatened to have me reported by the base commanding general to call up the top army general and say I'm just winning too many cases. I'm not playing things the right way. I'm a flat spot on the nice round wheel of military justice. So I've seen this many times in my career, this kind of intimidation game.
Are they giving you any rewards or favors for defying the defense position?
No.
Has anybody ever suggested that you should say anything whatsoever that would be unhelpful to the defense?
No.
Has the Norfolk County District Attorney's Office ever encouraged you to testify in any way other than the truth?
No.
When you spoke to the chief of the Boston Police Department, did he in any way ever tell you to shoot your testimony?
Not at all.
When you met with the Boston Police Department Commissioner, did he ever ask you the substance of what your testimony would or wouldn't be under oath?
He made it very clear he did not want to discuss the case at all.
Yeah, because the feds were involved. Then why would he be involved in questioning and telling you any instructions?
You spoke to the people at the Boston Police Department. Have they ever weighed in any way on what they think you should or shouldn't say?
No.
As you're testifying here today, are you
Of course, you can't say that. That's like something that would get her fired if she admitted that.
Under any tension, undue influence, stress, threat?
That saying "do the right thing" that could be easily interpreted as a threat, and I would say, from my experience, that is something that is very commonly done.
There is
Words to that
discomfort
effect.
with the way that there's attempting to guide what my testimony is, but I don't feel any need to fall into it because I'm here to speak the truth on the stand. That's my livelihood.
When you were threatened with perjury, how long was that conversation?
I believe it was just about an hour on the phone. My phone log on my physical phone would not go back far enough for me to be able to retrieve the date or the time that that phone call took place.
That conversation lasted an hour?
Approximately.
How did it end?
Not on a good note in the slightest. I remember it was a pretty hasty hang up on both ends.
Thank you for your time.
May we approach briefly?
Yes.
All right, let's jump ahead here.
A male voice on that phone call threatened to charge you with perjury.
Yes,
You're a police officer, correct?
yes.
Who charges people with crimes?
If a crime is committed, there can be a report of it.
Who
So
charges people with crimes?
in the end, it's going to go through the court system. So the district attorney, the ADAs, that's who pursues it in a court
Right.
setting.
Have you ever seen a defense attorney charge anybody with a crime?
So you can seek out reporting someone for it.
Have you ever seen a defense attorney charge someone with a crime, ma'am?
Personally, no.
Right. Fact of the matter is, nobody ever threatened you with perjury, did they?
Oh, they did. Yes.
That's it.
'Cause
That's
I
it.
contacted the FBI regarding it.
Oh, did you?
I did.
You have a report?
I have an email conversation where I sent the 2 questions I had. She responded, I will pass these along. I was contacted by their legal team. They reassured me perjury was not applicable because I made a statement in good faith upon further information.
She just said made a statement to the FBI. This has been something that has been in her wraps all of trial 1, all of trial 2. Brennan has aggressively kept this out. The judge doesn't want this coming out because of ARCA. And now she just blurts it out. So this is huge, huge win for the defense because it also ties in and answers who Jen McCabe had lied to and who she had to go back and correct. So now she's doing a Jen McCabe routine here. So this is a really great thing for defense. Now they may not be able to argue this is the FBI, but the jury knows, oh, this is the FBI because they were investigating the corruption there of this, not only Canton Police Department, but the Massachusetts State Police and the District Attorney's Office.
I retracted it, corrected it, and made it clear that I could no longer say it because I knew that it was not a clear reflection of the events that took place.
That's a mouthful.
Yes,
My question is, do you have a report from the FBI saying that you reported that someone on the Karen Reed defense team threatened to charge you, your words, with perjury? You have a
No.
report to that effect?
no.
No.
There's no report of that. Otherwise, they'd get a
Your
copy.
job as a police officer
Yeah.
is to be objective, isn't it?
Yes,
You're not supposed to take an adversarial position against one side or the other, correct?
I don't.
Just right down the middle, just the facts, as you noted, correct?
Yes,
You feel like you're being unbiased in your testimony here today in front of these jurors?
I'm telling the truth.
You think you're being fair to both sides?
All I have to do is tell the truth. If it's not perceived to be fair, that's someone else's opinion.
Let's talk about that truth for a second. What you told those law enforcement agents on August 9th, 2023 was,
Yeah, she did. I guess that's in relation to this follow-up issue here she's talking about, that she talked to the FBI about. She's worried about she's going to be charged with perjury.
quote, you recalled seeing Higgins at the station later
She completely backtracked off her statement and called it a false memory. Who's ever heard of a false memory of very specific details, and it's suddenly whitewashed like an etch-a-sketch?
that day on Saturday. Dever thought it was also weird that Higgins and Chief Kenny Berkowitz were by themselves in the sally port of the police department, by themselves while Karen Reed's car was parked inside. Higgins was a witness and present at the gathering where O'Keefe was found dead outside, and then he was in the presence of important evidence. You were sitting at dispatch by yourself and saw on the camera outside of the sally port when they walked in.
Objection to
Look
the
at-
entire reading.
So beyond the scope, so you have to keep it.
I don't know why he didn't bring this in on direct. Now he's objecting it's beyond the scope. This is huge right here, these elaborate details.
There's more to the statement, Your Honor. Do you remember making that statement to the officers?
That's good. He just keeps on going. So the judge didn't cut him off at this point.
My recollection of the time was that. So yeah,
I've never seen him do that before. He just kept on going. That's what you got to do, is just keep being aggressive, and see that aggressiveness paid off because he's able to get her to answer the question. The judge was caught off guard. So was Brennan.
Okay, great. Did you go on to say, speaking of being truthful, did you go on to say,
I'm objecting.
All right, so you have to ask differently, but I need to see you for a minute with this and bring that with you, please.
Bring that with you. Yeah, her statement to the FBI. Yeah, the judge wants to see all that. She needs to know what she said so she can try to keep as much out as she possibly can. So there you go. More objecting to the truth coming out. I just wish she would have asked her, tell us all the details of what you told the FBI when you interviewed them back on August 9th of 2023. Yeah. Yeah. When did she know she had the false memory? We don't know the exact timeline. She had this talk with calling back the FBI. I didn't catch the time window on that. But yeah, what is the triggering event that made her suddenly realize, you know what, that was wrong? And so next time when the defense calls her up, she's saying, no, that's all wrong. Or when they did call her up, she's saying that's not true. But the defense had her FBI interview. That was right before, probably about a little over a year ago, before the first trial. They interviewed her right then. So they interviewed her probably, it would have been probably a year and a few months ago. So and they decided not to call her then, but I wish they would have called her at first trial. I think this is very helpful. This is really critical information here. Yeah, can you imagine FBI comment comes out? So this is another thing. I'd renew the objection to having ARCA working for the FBI be admissible to show completeness of information to the jury, and not to mislead them on who ARCA was actually hired to investigate. They did not come in there working for the defense. They came in there as neutral folks looking to find out what actually is going on with all the corruption there in this part of the state. Yeah, Sherman Little, that was her statement to the FBI verbatim. So they do that. I've seen them do that here through this trial. They'll read statements people say. Really, the way it's supposed to work is you ask the witness, do you remember what you said? No. Have them refresh your memory. Then take the document away and then ask them, does that help you refresh your memory? And then say, what did you say back on August 9th of 2023? That's the way it normally works, but it shouldn't
May I
work.
inquire?
Yes.
Thank you. Officer Dever, did you go on to say in that interview, quote, you never saw them leave, them being Brian Higgins and Chief Ken Berkowitz. You never saw them leave, but you recalled thinking to yourself that they were in the Sallyport for a wildly long time together in there, end quote. Did you say that?
That was my recollection at the time.
Okay.
So yes.
Awesome. Huge.
Have you ever heard of,
Huge win for the defense on that.
by the way, you indicated under questioning by Mr. Brennan that you knew what they wanted from me, meaning the defense, what they wanted from me. You
Yes.
understand that?
Yes.
Do you remember on that phone call that we read directly from the exact same report that I just read from? Remember that?
And I told you the same thing then.
That's not
Yes.
my question.
Objection.
Sustained.
My question is, just answer my question. Deborah.
Excuse me.
Did we read to you, were you read the exact same thing that I just read to you on that phone call?
Like you can't remember my name. I don't remember.
I can remember your name.
Oh wow, what a way to come across. This is a Boston cop just flippantly saying like, you don't remember my name, I don't remember this. Look at how angry she is over this. So of course she remembers this. She has a lawyer she's gone over. That's why I don't know why these lawyers don't bring up the fact that all these not all these, but so many of these key witnesses for the government have lawyered up. This is another one tied to the cops here of Canton and now Boston. And they all got lawyers. Her lawyers sitting in the courtroom there. This is so bizarre to see this. What cops hire lawyers when they're testifying about a murder case they're involved in?
Name is Deborah.
Okay, so the answer is I don't remember. No
The answer is a little
comments.
more than that.
If she doesn't feel a threat for her career, why she got a lawyer there? If the commissioner didn't threaten her, why she got a lawyer there? Who's worried about defense lawyers saying you did something wrong? If the cops and DA's office don't believe you, why do you need a lawyer there? Why would you waste that money? Thousands of dollars to have a lawyer shadow you around the courthouse and sit in there, watch your testimony, look over what statement you gave the FBI, and was the attorney there during the FBI interview?
Judge, I think we all.
Those
All
are all
right, so
questions I would
no-
think would come out on a cross-examination.
No comments, just questions, please.
Yeah, only Hank Brennan is allowed to give comments.
Do you recall us telling you that we were looking for the truth about your
Objection.
comments?
I'm going to allow it.
We were
Finally.
looking for the truth.
Which I gave you. Yes.
Did you also say on that phone call something to the effect of, I know you're going to tear me a new one because I'm changing my testimony?
Changing, no. But you're trying to do that.
Did you say, I know you're going to tear me a new one?
That's what you're trying to do. So yes.
Actually, what you said was, you're going to tear me a new asshole, didn't you?
I don't recall that. So that's putting words in my mouth.
I'm not asking you to put words in your mouth. I'm asking you if you remember saying that during that phone call. Oh,
I don't
I know
recall.
you're going to tear me a new asshole.
I don't recall.
Okay. But you do remember saying something to the effect of, I know you're going to tear me a new one, right?
Yes.
Okay. Have you ever heard of something called the blue wall of silence?
That sounds like something a lawyer would be taking good notes on. She doesn't want to admit the ultimate details of this, but the gist is right there. She says something to the effect that she knows she's going to be in trouble with defense because she's lying and she's feeling the pressure there. So
Objection.
Sustained.
blue wall of science. This is motive. A witness can be called and asked about their motives. This is a blue wall of science. For those of you who don't know, is this cultural thing about law enforcement is that they don't rat each other out. They don't report misconduct by other officers. It's sort of like it's something you don't do. It's a no. It's a cultural norm that if you're considered a rat and you're ratting out a fellow officer, they don't want you around. So that's happened a lot in the military as well. If you're somebody that's willing to speak truth about waste, fraud, and abuse, you're considered a traitor and they do not want you around. So this is something that the judge should have allowed here. This is a critical piece that is relevant. It goes to her bias and motive to not help the truth come out, and it's why she felt the blue wall closing in around her when she was meeting there with the commissioner. So that's what they do. That's how they do it. They bring the person in and they say, hey, you better think about your career before you testify, or hey, you better do the right thing. Those are the exact kind of few words they have. Even just imagine them sitting there. So you're going to testify. I don't want to hear anything about it. I'm not here to talk to you about it, but I just want you to know we got your back. We got your back. And you know what? Think about it. We have your back. So you better do the right thing. I mean, that's the way it could be said. And then that rookie cop, that young cop, is then leaving there thinking, oh my gosh, I was just basically told my career's on the line. So what am I going to do? So that's how easy it is to pull this off in any organization where you have a chain of command and you got a big bureaucratic organization that doesn't want to keep its ranks clean, and they're in the habit of covering stuff up.
Do you think it's important for police officers to protect one another in the field and out?
Objection.
Sustained.
Have you spoken with anyone, not Mr. Brennan?
Sustained.
Corruption. This is corruption, not letting the truth come out.
Do you think it's important for police officers to protect one another in the field and out?
Objection.
Sustained.
Why? This is totally relevant. Protect one another, not disclose the truth of misconduct. Look, she doesn't look comfortable by this, and Brennan's objecting to truth. I hope you jurors pick up on this. This is absolute corruption 101. This is how it happens. The entire state is one corrupt cesspool, okay?
Have you spoken with anyone, not Mr. Brennan? He's covered that. Have you spoken with anyone from the district attorney's office about your involvement in this case? Ever?
No,
Never?
unless you're going to provide a person. I've never talked to any of these people.
Have you talked to anyone at the DA's office at all in any regard?
Not to my recollection,
How about indirectly?
not to my knowledge.
Are you friends with any people that you're aware of that are connected to this case? Are you personal friends, girlfriends, boyfriends, personal friends with anyone that's connected with this case?
Other people who's been on the witness stand, one person, yes.
Who's that?
Sarah Levinson.
How long have you known Sarah?
We became friends in middle school.
I've never seen a case where so many people know each other. It's really bizarre. The people just grow up there and they don't leave that area. That's something I'm not familiar with.
Did you watch any of the trial, this trial?
Clips in passing, but no, it's 6 hours a day. So I work during the day shift now.
So you've seen some of the footage of the goings on in this case, correct?
Yes, nothing with her. I did not watch her testimony.
Were you aware there was a sequestration order?
I don't know what that means, so no.
You're a sworn police officer. You don't know what sequestration means
No,
in terms of witnesses?
No.
Not watching the proceedings in order to affect their testimony?
no, I wasn't aware.
But you did tune in to the case, correct?
She knew she was on the witness list. Should have known from watching the trial that other people were sequestered. So
In small clips, yes.
And you did, in fact, on August 9th, 2023, have a fulsome conversation with two sworn police officers about your memory of what you saw, your observations on January 29th, 2022, correct?
I don't know if they're police officers necessarily, but yes,
Law enforcement agents, how about that?
yes,
And that conversation is reflected in this piece of paper that I just read to you, correct?
yes.
Thanks. That's all I have.
Okay.
Were you subpoenaed by the Commonwealth in this case?
No,
You were subpoenaed by the defense.
yes.
Did they tell you that there was a sequestration order or that you shouldn't watch any of the footage? Did they fairly inform you about what the ground rules were?
No, and I wasn't part of the first trial, so I had no idea about anything to do with this trial.
When you spoke to those law enforcement officers back in 2023, do you know that they made a report where you had informed them that you knew Sarah Levinson and that report had been provided to the defense a long time ago? Did you know that?
Yes, I informed them very clearly.
So the question about if you know Sarah Levinson, that's no secret in your world, is it?
In that form, I'll sustain it.
That isn't a secret, is it?
Not at all.
That's something you were open and candid about?
Yes,
yeah, I forgot. That's the other thing. Thanks, Catherine Roberts. Did no one inform her not to say first trial? Yeah. So they didn't tell her she's under sequestration. They also didn't say that, not to mention it's the first trial. So anyway, that's the prosecution dropping the ball.
You understand that regardless of what you
I think the jury probably figured out there was a trial, even though they're trying to avoid that. So now she just let that out of the bag. So
say, it doesn't matter as long as it's the truth. Do you understand that?
yes,
The Commonwealth in no way is asking you to accommodate it or please it in any way. Do you understand that?
yes,
If there was something that may be perceived by others as adverse to the Commonwealth, you understand we would want you to tell that if it was the truth, don't you?
Sustained.
You understand, well, the Commonwealth has never intimated, suggested, or advised you to say anything other than the truth, have they?
no,
Have you been given any consideration or reward because you remedied your memory?
no,
After being shown the evidence that you left,
this is just so much rambling of Brennan. It's just he's not getting anywhere with the jury. They're just tuning him out. He's just dragging this thing out.
that day, January 29th,
They get it. They get it. She was basically warned. You are hereby on notice. You are warned. And guess what? It worked because her testimony changed.
2022 at 3:45, and learning that the defendant's car did not get to the Sally Port at 5:30 or so p.m. Is there any way you could have seen Mr. Berkowitz and Mr. Higgins in the Sally Port with the defendant's car?
This is like beyond the scope. This would be objected to. You had your chance first go around, Brennan. You don't get to redo this whole thing over again, miss things you should have picked up on your initial cross.
That night before you left for work.
there is no way.
But this is whatever. Defense is not sure where they're letting this go on.
Understanding you made a mistake, was the defense receptive to your explanation that you made a mistake?
Objection.
Sustained in that form.
Did the defense pressure you when you told them you were going
Excuse me.
to come into this court and tell the truth about your
Yeah.
mistake?
Objection.
No, allow it.
Sorry, let me back up here.
When you told them you were going
Did
to
the
come into
defense
this
pressure
court and tell
you?
the truth about your mistake?
Objection.
I'm gonna allow it.
Allowed you to tell the truth about your mistake. It wasn't a mistake, Brennan. It's really obvious to the
Can
jury.
you rephrase it?
Yes. When you told the defense you had made a mistake about your memory, did they pressure you?
Yes.
Did they pressure you to say something other than the truth?
Sort of like you pressured Aperture to adjust their report so you can get all your timelines and sequenced in a better order for trial.
Yes, they wanted me to repeat a lie at that point, given it would have been with malicious intent.
Or repeat a lie. Yeah, they wanted you to repeat a lie. They know that you were told the truth to the FBI. Now you can just backtrack. Oh, no, I never said that. Oh, it's just like falsified memory. That's all I have is a falsified memory. And if you try to call me out on that, yeah, you're pressuring me to lie. No, somebody got to her and it's so obvious. So sorry, you're looking really bad here. You keep digging a hole. I guess it'll keep your job though, right?
To repeat it.
But the problem is, this is going to follow her around. She's never going to be able to testify in a case again because every defense attorney in that state will know she's talking about distorted memory, false memory. So she's not going to ever be able to follow her career as a police officer. I tell you that. They're going to realize she's got baggage that is never going to escape if she wants to be a long-term police officer.
Understanding a lawyer has no power to charge with contempt. Does that change the reality of whether or not you have?
What's contempt got to do with it? Contempt was never brought up before. She's saying that they threatened her with perjury charges. What's contempt got to do with that? Contempt is a different issue. That's something done in front of a judge.
Threatened? Let me ask it a different way. You were asked questions about whether or not you knew who could take out charges for a crime. Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
All this is asked and answered. He should not be allowed to do the same thing he's been asking about before. So he's going beyond the scope of what happened before. It wasn't something that was new that the defense brought out. And so I think it's really something they should be objecting to. But
regardless of whether an attorney has that power, were you threatened that there would be a charge of perjury if you didn't comply with the defense wishes in this case?
Yes.
no, she wasn't. You're not threatened by defense counsel threat. If you said that, why would you be worried about that? You're saying you lied to the FBI, and the FBI says, "Oh yeah, the legal department, hey, you're fine. Don't worry about it." The agent said, "Oh yeah, okay, you're good to go. Oh yeah, we're not worried about it." And then you'd be worried about the defense saying, "We will charge you." Yeah, defense attorneys can charge cops. So that's how laughably ridiculous this whole thing is. The truth is not out here, folks, with what this witness is saying, but the jury gets it. The jury can pick up on this.
And knowing you were going to come into court, given this experience you had with the defense, is that why you?
Yeah, they'll keep around till the conviction happens, and then they'll probably tell her, you know what, we can't ever use you in testimony. The defense bar knows about how you came across here on this case with your confession of a distorted and false memory.
You felt like they were going to tear you?
After the commissioner talks to you about doing the right thing, you did the right thing by your Boston PD chain of command and changed your testimony, right?
Is that the phrase we used?
Yes, because they did not want me to tell the truth. So I told them that knowing they were kind of trying to eat me alive into repeating something that is not the truth.
You know, this reminds me, this happened to me when I was in Italy as a defense attorney, a senior defense attorney, and there was some kind of corruption going on, and somebody knew some dirt on somebody high up in the military. And when they happened to be there visiting this particular unit, he saw this person that knew some dirt on his background from many years prior, and he basically told the current command there in Italy, you need to get rid of this guy, and he should have been kicked out a long time ago, all because, not because he wasn't a great soldier, but because he knew some dirt on this other higher ranking person. So what happened was they started drumming up bogus allegations against him. And so anyway, long story short, to sum it up, to say, I was interviewing that, and I talked to somebody over the phone, like somebody talked to her, and somebody made that same kind of thing about me, saying I was intimidating to her and was trying to put words in her mouth and things of that nature. And she was just caught in the middle. She was told to write up the bogus reports on this guy, write him up as being derelict in his job, and they used it to try to bring up criminal charges against him. So some of the stupid stuff was like, oh yeah, hey, you had a messy desk. Oh, hey, you failed to show up for physical training at 6 o'clock a certain morning, but yet he was excused because he was supposed to go pick up somebody at the airport that was flying in. So he had all these legitimate defenses. So anyway, it's just nothing happened with it because the whole case wound up crashing and burning. And but that was reported to my boss at the time and in Germany, and my boss said, I told him what happened. He goes, yeah, don't worry about it. They need some adult supervision down there. So anyway, but yeah, this is the way intimidation works, folks. And they blame it on the lawyers, and that's what they try to do. They try to blame me for, like, oh, you're causing problems to our little conspiracy racket here.
Rather than to come in here and be attacked, wouldn't it have been easier just to said what you had earlier thought was true?
Objection.
I'm going to allow that.
Wouldn't it be easier just to come in and accommodate them rather than be threatened?
No, because your career would be over, because you're diming out Higgins and also a fellow officer. You're known as a rat in the department. You're definitely done at that point. So she knows that. So what if the FBI is like backing off and she was able to smooth things over, then why would she turn around and say, no, I lied to the FBI the second time and I'm going to get my career completely trashed with the Boston PD? That'd be the worst decision. So Brennan knows that, but see, that's the kind of spin he's putting on stuff. Again, the spin meister, Brennan.
Well, of course.
This is the worst spinning I've ever seen by any attorney. It's unbelievable.
Why did you come in here?
My entire job revolves around what I say on the stand right now. If I was to lie, I lose my job. I lose everything.
If I was to lie or to not say what you really said to the FBI, that's how it's coming across.
I'm here to tell the truth. I cannot lie while sitting on the stand.
Well, you already got locked into the FBI and backtracked your statement, and you think you got away with it with them, which I don't think has actually happened. I think the FBI is going to come back after this trial is over with and try to put some pressure on her.
Thank you.
One question.
Okay.
Your entire job revolves around what you say on the witness stand. Is that what you just testified to?
Yes.
And if you agree that what you said to those two law enforcement agents on August 9th, 2023, you would be implicating not one, but two police officers, law enforcement officers, correct? If you agreed with what you said in August of 2023 on this witness stand, you would be implicating two officers, fellow officers, correct?
So I'm confused as to what you're asking.
No, she's not. She knows enough about the case. She knows that the defense whole theory is that evidence was planted and the window smashed out, and Higgins is a third-party culprit along with Brian Albert. She knows all this stuff. Now she's playing stupid, like how she's somehow relevant, what she initially said to the police.
Would be implicating if you agreed with me. You have not agreed that that was the truth. You've now indicated that what you told to law enforcement agents in August of 2023 was a lie.
No,
If you agreed with that statement here on the witness stand, you would be implicating two officers as having been in the Sally Port, weirdly, for a wildly long time with the SUV, implicating not one, but two fellow officers, correct? That's what you would be doing.
it's not possible I saw
If you
that.
agreed with that.
It's not possible I saw that. How do you not see that? You just got to be stuck in this thing about saving your career. She's in a career-saving mode right now. But the problem is she doesn't realize her selective memory answers are going to tank her for any future case she'd have to testify in.
Objection.
Would you be implicating the reputations of two officers?
If I was to lie, then yes.
And your entire job revolves around what you say on that witness stand. That's what you said, correct?
I'm still,
That's what you just
That's why she's so mad at the defense, because they're putting her in this position where she's stuck between different stories she's come up with, and she's got to pick the one that's best salvaging her career.
said, Officer Dever, correct?
I still don't really understand the question.
You just said, all I'm asking you is what you just said. I wrote
Yeah, come on. Jury picks up on this.
it down. You just said, my entire job revolves
She's
around
looking over
what I
at Hank
say
to try to get him to
on the
object.
witness stand. Correct?
Yes to that
Thank
question.
you. That's all I have.
So if she goes back and tells what she originally said to the FBI, then her career is killed, but she can save it by going with her revised memory that she's now claiming is accurate. I mean, it's the pressure is obviously shown through her making that comment. She knows her career is on the line here.
I'm confused. When you spoke to those agents, you didn't implicate Chief Berkowitz and Mr. Higgins with doing anything criminal, did you?
No, they were friends. That's why Higgins had an office there.
You didn't implicate them
Well, that's good to know they're such good friends.
ever suggesting they had tampered with evidence, did you?
No,
You never implicated them saying that they had framed anybody, did you?
no.
So when you
Not that she would have known at the time and she was implicating him. That's not the issue. The issue is when she found out this is a key issue in the case and that she might be called by defense, then all of a sudden this whole thing came out. But hey, the code of silence, you're violating if you testified to what you told the FBI.
you talked to those agents, did you ever suggest that Mr. Higgins and Mr. Berkowitz did anything to touch or tamper with the defendant's Lexus at all?
No,
Never.
no.
Is there anybody you're protecting?
I have no one to protect.
Do you need to protect anybody?
No.
All right, Officer Dever, you are awesome.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, jurors will take our morning recess.
Yeah, I don't think that she told her she's awesome. I think she's all set. All set is what she said.
20 minutes.
All rise, please.
All right. So
Those who
anyway,
don't want to follow me.
that's a great thing what we got out of that witness for Karen Reed's defense. That was amazing. And I'm glad the defense had the guts to call her and not talk to her again. And she was forced to testify. That's a good thing about subpoena power. They were able to force her to testify despite her not wanting to. Okay, here we had a morning break. Then we have Dr. Marie Russell, an ER physician and forensic pathologist. She had pre-med class at MIT. She's got her bachelor's at Northeastern and an MD at University of Massachusetts. I'm just going to go to the initial part of her direct, and then I'll go to more substantive testimony. We don't need to hear all of her qualifications, but she has massively superior qualifications to any medical person so far that can also talk to dog bite markings on John O'Keefe's arm.
Russell.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good point. She's not implementing why she changed her story. Just trying to pin it on the defense is giving her a bogus timeline.
Then you're going to step up and face the court and raise your right hand. Thank you.
You solemnly swear the evidence you give to the court and jury in the case now and here is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
May I have a seat?
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right,
morning.
Mr. Alessi, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning.
This doctor is also a cop for, I believe it was 7 years.
Good morning.
Could you please state your full name and spell your last name and introduce yourself to the jury?
Yes, Marie Russell, Russell.
Can you summarize your professional background?
Yes, I am an emergency physician and a forensic pathologist.
How long have you been an emergency medicine physician?
For over 30 years.
How long have you been a forensic pathologist?
For over 30 years.
Do you have a medical license?
I do, several.
When were you first licensed to practice medicine?
In 1988.
What medical licenses do you currently hold?
Well, I have a physician and surgeon license in California. I have a medical license in Massachusetts, New York, and Idaho.
Where did you attend college?
I attended both MIT and Northeastern University here
Let's
in
start with-
Massachusetts.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I said
Pardon
in
my
Massachusetts.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't circle back to that. But yeah, missing timeline. Maybe they cleaned up the video, deleted video, salad report, and said, hey, look, we don't have anything showing that they came in there. So you're going to rat a couple guys out when there's no proof they were in there. That's all it would take. And somebody feeling that kind of pressure is going to surrender to the commissioner's will.
When did you attend pre-med and what was your major for MIT?
Yes, when I was at MIT, that was in 1972 to early 1974, I took pre-med courses. My major was biology, but I took pre-med courses.
Did you obtain a degree from MIT?
No.
Thanks for doing mod service tonight. Food is love. Appreciate you very much.
Why not?
Unfortunately, my mother became sick with cancer, and I ended up going back to New York.
Where did you ultimately obtain your bachelor's degree and which degree was it?
Well, after my mother passed away, I came back to Massachusetts, and ultimately I obtained my degree at Northeastern University. And what was the other part of the question?
Did you have any distinction with regard to your degree that you achieved from Northeastern?
Yes, I obtained a bachelor's degree with highest honors.
After college, did you go on to receive a doctor of medicine?
Yes.
Where did you attend medical school and when did you obtain your medical degree?
I attended the University of Massachusetts in Worcester medical school, and I obtained the medical degree in 1987.
Did you complete any residencies? And if you also could just explain to the jury very briefly what a residency is.
Yes. I completed an internship and residency in emergency medicine initially. And what that is internship is and residency both are very intense years of study and training and getting experience in a particular area. So I obtained the internship, I completed the internship and residency in emergency medicine.
Where did you obtain those internships and residencies?
Well, I was interested in emergency medicine, so I went to Los Angeles because they had a very, very busy emergency medicine program.
And it may be obvious, but let's just make.
When I heard all these qualifications this morning when I was listening to this, I'm like, you know what? He's got nothing to attack her experience, her testimony about how she has all this experience from working in jail with dog bites and attacks from people coming in and getting in fights, resisting cops, all that kind of stuff. And also fights and assaults, all that kind of stuff. So she knows, different types of assaults and things with dog injuries and whatnot. So he's going to attack her character. That's the only thing he's going to try to do. And that's really something that's not going to work with somebody like her. But if you're desperate to win a case and to win a case you cannot win, you got to spin everything you can and make up stuff and just throw everything against a wall and try to make it stick and keep out the truth. And that's what you see going on here.
Make it perfectly clear, why is Los Angeles very busy for an emergency medicine practice?
Well, it's a big city. And in this particular hospital that I was at, it was right in the heart of the city. It was in the, well, near the downtown, but it was in a very, very busy and underserved area. So it was very busy.
Did you complete any fellowships, and could you please explain to the jury the significance and prestige of a fellowship?
Yes. So after my residency in emergency medicine, I then decided to do a second residency. And that was in pathology, in anatomic pathology. Pathology, of course, is the study of disease. And so I did the 2 years of anatomic pathology, also at the same busy medical center. And after that, I did a fellowship, 2-year fellowship in forensic pathology at the Los Angeles County Medical Examiner's Office.
What did your forensic pathology fellowship involve?
Well, forensic pathology training involves the investigation of deaths, usually sudden and unexpected deaths. And so, I investigated many death cases. I performed over 500 autopsies at the medical examiner's office for sudden and unexplained, sometimes unexplained, sometimes very obvious deaths, but sudden deaths. And then in addition to that, there were classroom hours, there was on-scene time, there was time in the crime lab. We spent a week at the crime lab. I spent some time at the FBI. So it was a very, very comprehensive training program.
Approximately how many autopsies were you performing a day?
Oh, usually 1 to 2, unless there was another assignment.
In addition to performing the 1 or 2 autopsies a day, did you attend any conferences or participate in any forensic case discussions as part of the fellowship?
Yes, so it was very organized, and we had conferences on some, mostly Thursdays, but also sometimes on Tuesdays. Interesting case conferences or very structured lectures.
You spoke of cases. Can you briefly tell the jury, so they have an understanding of the type of cases that you would typically work on as part of your forensic pathology fellowship?
Well, there were many unexplained deaths, so some of them would be natural deaths in somebody who might be a little younger than usual old age. And then there were cases where there might be drug overdose. Many cases were accident victims, including car accident victims and other kinds of accidents. There were quite a few homicides, and in fact, many homicides, and quite a few suicides.
Did any of those cases deal with wounds and wound patterns and wound identification?
Many of them, in fact, I would say almost most of them, because part of the examination, and a very important part of the examination, is the external examination of the body. So before...
I'm gonna jump ahead here.
Body. And so the way the body, the descriptions go is that
the key part of her standing up here, she's actually showing how John O'Keefe's injuries on his arm are a result of him having defensive efforts to fight off a dog, a canine.
You take a person in what they call the standard anatomic position, which is upright with their arms, their palms facing forward. Palms facing forward. So that is the standard anatomic position. So anything in the front is anterior, anything in the back is posterior.
Could you point to the arm when you talk about anterior and posterior, please?
Yes. So with regard to the arm, if the palm is facing forward, that's the anterior. So the posterior part of the arm would be the back part that I'm touching right now. This back part of the arm and the back part of the forearm would be right here. So that's the posterior of the arm.
And what relation does the posterior of the arm have in determining whether or not a wound is a defensive wound?
Well, oftentimes when someone is being attacked, they will put their arm up to defend or protect their face, their neck, their chest.
Look at that judge constantly rocking forth and back like this. I mean, what's going on? How disrespectful to the whole decorum of a courtroom.
Their vital organs, the vital parts of their body. So they put their arms up. And in doing so, the posterior part of the arm becomes presented to whoever is attacking them or whatever is attacking them. So this is the part of the arm that oftentimes gets injured when someone is defending themselves.
Thank you, doctor. How often have you observed and concluded regarding defensive wounds to the forearm?
Many times. I don't know. I don't have a number. 20, 30, I don't know. In terms of decedents. And then in terms of live people, many, many more.
And if we just start with the posterior part of the forearm that you've described and you encounter wounds there, are those wounds indicative or highly indicative of anything?
Well, they're indicative of defensive wounds being caused during a defensive action.
In your experience as a resident, a fellow, emergency room physician, and a forensic pathologist, and your time at Cochrane, have you experienced and taught the topic of defensive wounds?
Yes.
Now let's move on to another topic. Do you have knowledge of the dental features of dogs?
Yes.
Where did you gain your knowledge about the dental features of dogs?
Generally from reading articles.
And in terms of examining patients with dog-inflicted wounds, did that inform you anything about dog dentition or not?
Not specifically.
In terms of dog dentition, Your Honor, may I approach?
Okay.
Thank you. This depiction mark.
Canine dental anatomy. Well, dogs tend to have a triangular mouth, meaning, it comes, to a narrowing towards the front of the mouth. It shows how many teeth a normal dog will have, and what they look like. There are different kinds of teeth, just like humans have different kinds of teeth.
In Your Honor, to assist the jury in the understanding of what.
No, thank you.
Zoom in on.
I think the lower half around the triangular upper and lower jaws, right there.
Right there? Very
Yeah.
good. And Mr. Wolf.
Yeah, and those kind of fangs, I guess you call them, is what is consistent with those kind of marks, those gouges on John O'Keefe's arms. And they have the gap there between a number of them as well.
If you could
gashes.
just, to start with, pull it down just so we can see the headings.
She also testified that canines are different from regular dog. Canines do this kind of stuff more on the arm, like you see on John O'Keefe, which is what they had, a canine trained dog in the Albert House. So this is really important critical information for the defense to bring out through this expert.
And more importantly, the jury can see the headings of those two diagrams that Dr. Russell has pointed out. Yes, and just enlarge that. Can you read what's on the left and what's on the right? It's slightly blurry.
It's slightly blurry.
Mandible, lower jaw, maxilla, upper jaw.
Yes, I can read it.
Right. Alrighty. So if we could then just reduce it back down so it's a little bit so that it's not distorted. And then Dr. Russell, if you could just talk about it. And before we do that, I think it would be helpful, Dr. Russell, we can go to the depiction up above just to get the overall picture up above there of the dog. All right. Is that that's an overall picture, correct? Do you want to point out anything generally on that picture?
I don't have a pointer, but generally it's a side view, and it shows the and it's a skeletal view, so there's no skin, and it shows that there are some prominent teeth that are so long compared to the others. They
canine
are
teeth.
the ones that seem to cause the the puncture wounds, and those are the ones that appear to get the grip on the person's skin.
Is there a medical term for a puncture wound from a canine? Or is it just it's a punctate wound from canines?
I'm not sure there's a medical term.
Okay, please continue.
Okay. Well, that's about it on this side view.
Yeah, think about all those videos you see of canine handlers. They all have that big sleeve, that big padded sleeve that goes all the way up to their shoulder, the top of their shoulder. Why is that? Because they're trained to attack someone and hold them by their arm, because they know that people are going to try to protect their vital organs in their face by putting their arms up, their forearms. And so this is the kind of attack that he had on his arm. Is that from a trained dog, a canine dog? So it all aligns perfectly with John O'Keefe's injuries, what she's saying.
And is there any other view on this exhibit that you would like to discuss with the jury?
Well, I was going to show that it's triangular again. The here the upper and lower jaws. Yeah, they tend to be somewhat triangular.
Is that also sometimes the shape referred to as an hourglass, or is it triangular, or you prefer triangular?
I've heard it referred to as hourglass. I don't see.
Yeah, this Chloe dog of Brian Albert, supposedly it didn't pass training with its training to be a canine, and so maybe it's because it wasn't good at following directions, or maybe because it's too aggressive. I haven't heard why that is, but it failed training as a canine, from what I gather.
See an hourglass, but yeah, maybe in some dog breeds, because all the different dog breeds have different shapes of their mouths, but this is just a generalization.
Okay, please continue.
I don't know that there's anything else.
All right, and so you.
Oh, actually, yes. So here you can see. Go back, please. So here you can see the canines, and it's oftentimes this is the upper jaw, the maxilla jaw. It's oftentimes the.
Listen how credible, competent, and experienced this doctor is. Just has a wonderful, trusting personality. There's nothing sleazy or shady about her. You got nothing as a prosecutor on here. Nothing at all.
These teeth that do the impacting.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you say it's often these teeth that what?
That do the impact. The upper jaw is oftentimes the part that actually makes contact with the skin.
You can just tell she's not doing this for any money. Even if she's getting paid, she's not doing this for money. She's doing it because she knows that this is a railroad job that Karen Reed is getting here.
That's all.
Thank you. We can take that down. Mr. Woke, thank you, Your Honor. Now let's go to dog-inflicted injuries on humans generally. What type of injuries to humans can be caused by dog-inflicted
Well, there are lots of different types of injuries. So they could be extremely minor, from a minor scratch to puncture wounds by individual teeth, to actual puncture and punctures by several teeth. There could be several abrasions because there are multiple teeth involved, and if they don't puncture, they at least scratch. They can scratch the skin. That's what I call abrasion, is a scratch. So they scratch the skin, but in parallel, because the teeth are lined up. So they oftentimes have parallel lines. And then, of course, there are, bruises that could occur because of the crushing injury, and there can be what we call avulsions, which are where an actual flap of the skin is removed. And I can go further, but there's a wide extent of injuries.
So there's a wide extent, a wide range. And can you just give one or two factors that are going to determine whether you're on the more minor side of the range to the more major part as regard to the type of bite that the dog is able to get?
Well, I think that when there is penetration of the skin and pulling away of some of the tissue, I would consider that a more significant bite because of what's needed for treatment.
Just bear a moment, please. Thank you. So in terms of the nails and claws of a dog, what type of injury, if any, can those cause?
So the nails they're also somewhat pointy or triangular in configuration.
Hold on. Janice Kerberg, she has a lawyer there because their defense has already threatened her with perjury. Cops don't hire lawyers because the defense attorney threatened them with perjury. These defense attorneys are corrupt as heck. They lost big time. Actually, you just don't know what you're talking about. So I'll just go ahead and block you. Goodbye. Don't need that garbage on
or
this
shape.
channel.
And so they can cause scratches, and actually they can cause even deeper wounds if the nail catches the victim's skin a certain way. But most of the time, just scratches.
From your experience, what type of medical experience, peer-reviewed article experience, your whole professional experience with dog-inflicted wounds on humans, do you have experience with just a part of the range or the whole range of injuries that a dog can inflict?
Well, I think I have a very wide range of experiences because those very serious ones we talked about in the very beginning, where there were crushing and ripping injuries, or those were the trained canine dog bites. Most emergency physicians don't even get to see those. They're so uncommon. But because I was assigned to jail ward, that's how I got seen. But in the majority, in the main ER, most ERs in our main ER, we saw the more minor type of injuries.
So in terms of if someone is bitten by a dog, where are they? Again, I think most people understand this, but just to be clear for the record, when someone gets a dog-inflicted wound, where do they usually go?
Well,
Sustained.
Doctor, are you aware of the medical facility from your experience where people go who have dog-inflicted wounds?
Well, if they feel like they need medical care, they will either go to a family doctor or most likely the emergency department.
I'm gonna
because
go ahead here. I don't have time for 2.5 more hours plus. Okay, so they're on break from lunch break from 4:06. So here we go.
Well, first let's start. What is it, and then how do you recognize it?
It is a picture of the decedent's right arm and forearm.
Now, without stating what it is, have you been able to form an opinion as to the source and nature of the wounds that are depicted in that exhibit?
Yes.
Now, in terms of the next area, can you describe for the jury what method you used in forming your opinion without yet stating what your opinion is?
Well, I use pattern recognition and differential diagnosis.
So let's start with wound pattern recognition. Is that the wound pattern recognition you've been discussing up to this point in your testimony?
Yes.
And did I hear you use the phrase differential diagnosis?
Yes.
Please tell the jury what you mean by the term differential diagnosis as a physician, emergency medicine physician and forensic pathologist.
So when a patient, when a physician sees a patient and, or, in Imogen's case, and is attempting to make a diagnosis, it's very important that not only do they consider what they believe is the obvious, but also in their mind go through other possible diagnoses and determine if they can rule them out, so to speak. If they can rule them in, rule them out, so that they are not just focused on one thing, but they've actually given consideration to other conditions that may be causing whatever it is that they see.
So, Mr. Wolk, if you could take that, we're going to come back to this back and forth, but I'd like to have it taken down until we do have the need to, and if we could have the.
All right, let me jump ahead here.
Going.
Basically, she said like the groupings of all these marks are consistent with a dog because that's typical what you see.
Essentially in the same direction. They are oriented.
They're all oriented the same way as if a dog's attacking the arm and biting the arm.
In the same way, on the almost from the inner, close to the inner surface of the arm or the anterior surface towards the posterior surface.
What is
of the
the
arm.
significance, if any, of that orientation you just described?
So what that gives me direction, and that tells me that the dog's teeth were over here. Over here. The dog is over on this side of the arm, and the teeth started their punctures or their injuries over here, and through either the action of the dog or a combination of the action of the dog and the action of the decedent pulling away, or the victim pulling away, the teeth made these abrasions in this direction, from here down to here.
If a jury can't get this, then good night. This is they got to be, somebody's either got to them or they're on some kind of drugs of delusion.
And then here it's very complex because of the bending of the elbow. We don't know the exact configuration of what this elbow was in the arm. Was it fully extended, meaning it's fully stretched out, or was it partially bent? Was it fully bent? We don't know. But in addition to the pulling away movement, there's also the bending movement. So that one is even a little bit more complex. And of course, there are some additional marks down here and some possible bruising down here, punctate marks down here, which may represent the lower teeth.
If we could just stop at that area, have you observed in your experience what you call that complex area pattern? Have you seen that before?
Not that exact pattern, no.
But have you seen any that is similar to it?
I've seen some characteristics of these patterns before.
Right.
Yes.
And is the appropriate methodology to just to zero in on one section, or is the appropriate pattern methodology to look at all the wounds and then reach a conclusion?
The second, to look at all the wounds.
And
Okay,
could you
so-
please describe?
Why don't we take our recess?
Okay, Your Honor.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, she also said that for motor vehicle accidents, work in the ER, normally you'd see lower extremity injuries. So everything's consistent with the dog attack.
See what-
Evidence.
Okay.
Mr. Wolk, Dr. Russell, do you recognize Exhibit 1 from your review of the documents in this case?
Yes,
And what is it that Exhibit 1 represents?
it's a picture of the forearm of the decedent.
And we left off at lunch, and I'm not going to cover too much old ground, just to reorient ourselves back to where we were. You were discussing the basis of your opinion and conclusion that you said that these wounds were caused by, excuse me, why don't you restate? Well, let's continue on in the basis of your opinion. Let's just continue on. Can you go through what is in Exhibit 1 and describe how it is that you came to your opinion?
Well, I observed multiple patterns of striations or linear abrasions.
I'm sorry to interrupt you so soon. Do you have the pointer in case you want to use that available?
Thank you.
Thank you.
So there's multiple groupings of linear abrasions, and linear means like a line, linear. So there's multiple of those, and here's one. Here's another one closer to the elbow. Here's another one closer to the wrist, and here's another array of linear abrasions near the elbow.
In terms of these wounds, in assessing their source, do you look at them individually, collectively, or both?
Both. I look at them individually, and then I put them in context of how they relate to one another.
And how they relate to one another, is there a name of that methodology that you
sense.
use in terms of how they relate to each other?
Well, I think it's a pattern methodology, pattern recognition.
And what pattern is it that you see here with regard to all of these wounds on the right arm?
Well, I see multiple linear groupings together in a area from the mid arm to the mid forearm.
Pretty obvious.
Validity is
Word, Mr. Wilson.
Oh, here, watch.
Assisting. I'm going to allow it.
Can you please repeat your answer?
Yes,
What you see?
multiple strikes from a dog.
That's what it is.
And with regard to,
It's not
do
a
you see
tail
any
light.
characteristics in terms of a medical observation with regard to those strikes?
I don't understand the
Okay.
question.
Are you familiar with the medical term pathognomonic?
Oh, yes.
What is the definition of pathognomonic?
Pathognomonic in medicine means that the characteristics of a condition are so highly specific and unique that they basically say that it can only be from a certain condition and no other condition. So to the exclusion of all other conditions. That's what is meant by pathognomonic. At least that's my understanding.
Do you consider these wounds pathognomonic?
Assisting.
Wow. There you go. Keeping out the truth again.
How
Disgusting.
do you evaluate these
Corrupt.
wounds in terms of what you
Evil.
call their characteristics?
I characterize them as highly specific for a dog attack.
Objection. You can't even say attack, a dog attack. Oh, no, it's a dog kiss.
I'm going to strike the last word, Mr. Wilson.
Good. Well, you know what? The jury heard it. Shame on you guys and your evil ways.
In terms of,
There you go, jury. You gonna strike that from consideration? Your memory should be so ingrained, seeing this pattern over and over again, the truth being blocked over and over again. So you better go back there and do your right
characteristics that you
justice for this case and see this case for what it is.
have talked about, are there
An evil witch hunt. That's all this case is.
any other aspects of dog dentition that you can discern from Exhibit 1?
I don't understand the question.
You mentioned earlier when we had the dog dentition exhibit up, you mentioned
All right, I'm
an
going to jump
arch.
ahead for a sake of time. She did say civilian dog bites have fewer striations than John O'Keefe's dog bites. There are multiple strikes from a dog. This is where she's talking about the highly specific injuries on John O'Keefe that are from a dog attack. So keeping out the word attack is unbelievable.
Conclusion.
Because in my opinion, they don't penetrate the skin.
Here we go.
Mayor, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. If we could put the exhibit 1 back up on the screen, please, Mr. Wolf. Dr. Russell, is what's depicted on the screen one dog bite or more than one dog bite?
Ask it differently, Mr. Wilson.
Oh, please.
Dr. Russell, can you determine from this
Hank
depiction,
gets away with that.
how do you evaluate this depiction with regard to dog bites?
All right, I just need to move ahead.
For the jury, how you performed that differential diagnosis with regard to the decedent. And we can leave that up for just a moment. Go ahead, Dr. Russell.
Look at her
I'm gonna
holding
need
her
some
eyes.
sergeants.
She's so disgusted with Brennan. Disgusted. She knows this is a sham court. Okay, let's just go to
Eve, which I'm circling with the pointer.
look at that.
And there's a label that labels it number 1.
Lips.
And so I see this hole that is rather round and appears to have some fabric coming out of the hole towards the exterior of the jacket or the shirt.
Did you attribute any significance to the shape of the wound? And if so, what significance?
The shape of the hole, yes. So it's
He makes-
rounded.
It means whole.
I actually attributed a lot of significance to that.
Describe a lot of significance that you attributed to this hole.
So this is
Well, I
John's hoodie he was wearing. All these little arrows. They're all dog
Examine clothing
bite indicators.
either as part of your forensic pathology practice or your emergency medicine practice to determine the source of defects in clothing.
Yes.
How many times have you done that approximately in your career?
All right, I'm just going to jump ahead here. So basically, all this evidence aligns both on his arm, all up and down his arm, on the jacket.
Yes.
That is all the questions I have for this
All right.
of the lead authors in the
All right. Her reasonable degree of medical certainty. He was bitten in an I can't say attacked by a dog. All right, let's go to speaking of attack, let's go to 617 and have this attack man here.
Russell, we've met before.
Yes.
I've asked you questions before,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
you've testified
Try to keep
before
her
where I had
out.
a chance to ask
It's
you
not
about some
qualified
of
as an
your
expert, which is a
statements and
sham
opinions, haven't I?
disgrace in and all
Yes.
of itself.
Before this case, had you ever testified as an expert in dog bites in any federal court in the United States?
No.
Before this case, had you
Why
ever
federal?
testified in any state court in anywhere in the country as an expert in dog bites?
No.
Other than this case, have you ever testified
Like it
in a
matters.
courtroom as an expert about dog bites?
No.
Last year, you
Should
learned
stare him down.
that there was
She
litigation
knows he's
regarding this case, Commonwealth versus Karen Reed, correct?
disgusting.
Yes.
You learned a little bit of information about it, and it piqued your interest, didn't it?
Yes.
Did you know that the case was receiving a lot of attention?
No.
Did you know that it was on television?
I had no idea until I got here.
You spoke to a colleague in Los Angeles, correct?
I'm sorry, I spoke to who?
A colleague?
I spoke to a district attorney in Los Angeles.
And did you just bring up the subject, or did that person bring it up to you?
I brought it up.
When you brought that up, is it because you knew of the relationship between that district attorney and somebody on the defense team?
Yes.
You wanted to get involved in this high-profile case, didn't you?
No.
Well, you weren't called by anybody on the defense and retained as an.
And sure enough, he's attacking her character because what she says is so common sense. The only thing he can do is make it out that she's some grifting, scummy person that's doing this for fame. Really? With her credentials?
Expert in the traditional sense.
This ought to just turn off the jury. So Brendan thinks he can just go after people and just malign their character. Anybody that's helpful to the defense, he thinks he can malign their character and rake them over the coals with all these sick, disgusting accusations. And he has no filter. He's not able to say, you know what? I better back off. Somebody like her, she just nails it. She just nails. There's nothing to attack on her. There's nothing about her personality that comes across that she's in it for money. She makes enough money. She's had all these high profile jobs in medicine. So you got nothing on her.
Were you?
That's correct.
It was
What did he
after
do? He
you
stooped
reached out
so
yourself
low.
and interjected yourself into this case. True?
I did so for a reason. And the reason being that I knew I was one of the only people in the United States
Exactly.
board certified and residency trained in emergency medicine and also residency trained in forensic pathology.
She's got it all. She's one of the most unique persons in the entire world that knows everything about dog bites and vehicle accidents because she worked in ER, she's worked in prisons/jails. So she's the perfect one, and pathology. So who has all that experience? That is why she's so perfect for this case and just absolutely destroys the Commonwealth. They got nothing on her.
And therefore I had a unique skill or knowledge set. And I was one of the very few people that had the knowledge of dog bites, as
You
well
won't
as
find a
those
better human
other
being than her. Okay.
trainings.
So go after
Because of the
her,
fact
Hank.
that you held this
Go
opinion
for
about
it.
yourself,
See how it works
you
out
wanted
for
to get
you.
involved in this very high-profile case, didn't you?
I thought I could help clarify the issues as to whether or not this could be a dog bite, and maybe they could move on to something else if it wasn't.
Yeah, you wanted your 15 minutes of fame, right? That's really why you got involved. You knew this was high profile. Yeah, look at her. She's looking at him like, how dare you accuse me of that?
Did you want to get involved?
No, not really.
Inevitably,
Look at this. Anyway,
you got hired by the defense, didn't you?
Yes, I reluctantly agreed.
And they paid for your time?
They are paying for the time.
Yes. Did you know that there was a relationship between the district attorney you spoke to in California and somebody on this defense table?
I know, yes.
So when you spoke to the district attorney, did you have the hope that they would reach out on your behalf to get you involved in this case?
As I said, I hope that they could
because she's a good Samaritan, honest, decent person.
reach out to the team, and I could help clarify issues so that they could move on. If these weren't dog bites, then no sense spending a whole bunch of time on it.
After you testified in this case last year, you then began to advertise yourself as a dog bite expert, didn't you?
I had advertised myself many years ago as a dog bite expert. I think I'm not sure, but yes, I did advertise myself as a emergency medicine and forensic pathology expert.
Did you take
with other sub interests?
Sure. Did you take a photograph of you testifying at trial and put it on a website to promote your accomplishments?
It's a listing.
Oh my gosh,
service
how
for
terrible.
physicians. And yes, there is a
Did that.
photograph.
So you took a photograph from your participation in this event,
Yes, that's there.
and you used that photograph in your participation at this event to
Yeah, to help other people getting railroaded, maybe from people like you
try to procure
and this
future work,
judge.
didn't you?
I wouldn't say that was the reason. No.
When you listed a number of things that you have experience in after this case, you then added that you were an expert in dog bites, didn't you?
I believe I am an expert in dog bites. Yes.
But after this case and after you took the photograph from this case and
This is so lame, folks. It's so disgusting to see.
after you created this
But
advertising,
keep it up.
you then added the
Jury
fact that you
gets
were an
it.
expert in dog
Bully
bites.
Brennan.
It was all at the same time. And
Keep
it was
making your
submitted
case,
at the same
Brennan.
time.
Right,
Go for
after
it.
this case, after you participated
Well-
and volunteered to involve yourself in this case, you then
Do your
use it
ugly
as
mode.
a
Be
marketing
ugly to this
opportunity.
lady.
Well, I also I had
See where it
retired
gets
from
ya.
my full-time job, and I had time, and I wanted to get more involved in some forensic legal cases, and not specifically dog bite cases. I have much more experience with other cases.
Undoubtedly, I respect that, but simply
All right.
after you testified in this case, you did use
Who
your
cares?
participation as a way to try to garner future
She's about
interest
justice,
in
unlike some people.
cases and income, didn't you?
I did, but I did not mention this case.
Have you testified in any other court since this case as a dog bite expert?
No.
You had written a few articles that were peer reviewed on dog bites back in, is it the 1990s?
Yes.
And they involved law enforcement canines?
Yes.
And you describe in those articles how a law enforcement canine grabs and holds. Is that the technique they call it?
Yes.
Where they lock their jaw and then they pull and
Compare the character of these two people, Brennan versus her.
hold on to the subject that they're attacking or holding.
Yes, that's what they were trained to do back then.
And you would agree that there's a difference between generally the way a domestic dog bites and a law enforcement dog bites.
Generally, yes.
Since those two articles in 1990, have you authored anything else regarding dog bites?
No.
You had mentioned that you had gone to seminars.
Everything Hank accuses other people doing and other witnesses doing is what he's doing and his own witnesses are doing. Isn't that something?
Regarding identification. Now, I had a chance to ask
Hypocrisy.
you a number of months ago about some details about training and education you
Feigned
have on
indignation.
pattern recognition analysis as it specifically relates to dog bites. Remember, I asked you those questions a number of months ago?
I believe you did.
And I'd asked you if you could give us any specific listed trainings that you had regarding pattern recognition analysis of dog bites. And at that time, you did not have any named of any classes or seminars or certificates that you have. You mentioned again today that you have attended seminars regarding dog identification analysis. Do you now know some of those trainings and seminars? And are any of those listed on your CV?
The trainings that I went to on bite marks in general, they were bite marks in general, and included things like how to determine what was a human bite, how to differentiate a human bite from a dog bite. But no, I did not specifically attend seminars limited to dog bites only. However, actually, there was one this past February that I did attend at the American Academy of Forensic Science.
Over your many, many decades, you did not attend any seminars on pattern recognition analysis of dog bites, did you?
Of specifically dog bites, no.
I only want to talk about dog bites. I know you're well trained and educated. I respect that, but I want to talk about dog bites. You didn't attain any certificates in pattern recognition analysis of dog bites.
They're not bogus.
I don't think there are any that exist, any training programs like that.
In fact, forensically, have you ever been presented with a wound and been asked to determine whether or not the source of it was a dog bite, other than right here in this very case? Have you?
Most people are not idiots and they can figure out, oh, it's a dog bite, and they know it's a dog bite. They're not going to dispute it's a dog bite. They're not idiots like folks in Massachusetts that try to say something that's very obvious, i.e. a dog bite is not a dog bite. They're not going to gaslight people on a jury and tell you, no, this is not a dog bite. It's a tail light scratch.
Ever been asked to do that in your entire history?
In my clinical career, perhaps once or twice, but not, not that I can give you a specific name.
Well, the couple times.
Oh,
tell us
that's
what stands
true.
out. When were
Case
you
he
asked
lost
ever
with
over your
Bolger.
entire career to do a forensic evaluation of a wound and identify whether it was a dog bite? When did that happen?
A forensic evaluation? No, never,
Never.
never.
Okay.
It just doesn't come up.
Okay. And so this is the first shot, the first crack you've had at looking at a photograph and trying to make a determination based just on a photograph, whether or not the wound is generated from a particular mechanism, and in this case, your opinion, a dog bite.
No, actually, I disagree. I've been taking photographs of dog bites since the 1990s.
And when you took the photographs, you knew they were dog bites.
I did know that they were dog bites.
Have you-
Yes, I have a collection.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry.
That was it.
So not when you knew it was a dog bite and you took a photo. I know you have an interest. I'm asking, other than this case, there was never, ever a time in your career where you were presented with a photo and asked to give an opinion whether the mechanism of injury was a dog bite, other than this case.
That's correct.
So this is not a
What if she said, "Yeah, I'm not making anywhere close to what you're making prosecuting Karen Reed"?
pattern recognition analysis engagement that you have any experience in before this effort.
I've recognized that pattern many times.
I appreciate your opinion, but I want to ask my question. You
Oh,
do not
yeah.
have
What a snotty way to treat this precious person.
experience over your long accomplished career.
Oh yeah, and then you try to, oh yeah, your long accomplished career. Yeah, dude, you're trying to rake over the coals as her being some kind of a grifting, self-promoting hired gun for the defense that she's willing to throw everything away and just make up stuff. Is that really what you're driving at, Hank? You think a jury's gonna like you and believe you for that?
In the effort of pattern recognition analysis of dog bite wounds. Isn't that fair to say?
Okay.
You mentioned before, and you just mentioned again, so I want to ask you some more questions. You believe that you are uniquely qualified to look at a photograph and give an opinion about the source of the injury.
I'm not uniquely qualified. That's done all the time in forensic pathology. Many forensic pathologists do that.
Did you just say you're one of the very few physicians in the United States who has both the forensic and the clinical experience to look at a photograph and make a determination, the mechanism of injury?
No, I said, if I said that, then that was incorrect. I meant dog bites, But your question just now was not specific to dog bites.
Right.
Postmortem photographs are used all the time in forensic pathology for second opinions.
You're right. My apologies. Did you say today and before, have you said that you believe you're one of the only few physicians in the United States who could authoritatively distinguish between
How many people have worked on inmates being attacked by dogs and also worked in the ER, so you can distinguish whether something came from a dog or a car? That is really rare. And you're also a pathologist. I mean, that's unheard of. It's absolutely unheard of.
causes of wounds when it relates to dog bites?
I did say that, and that's because of my unique training. I don't know of another doctor in the whole United States that did 2 residencies, one in emergency medicine and one in forensic pathology, and has a lifelong interest in dog bites.
So, Dr. Russell, from your perspective, as far as you know, you were the only person in the entire United States of America who was qualified to look at a photograph and make a determination whether the wound was derived from a dog bite.
No.
Oh, really? Like she's not qualified, yet that Mr. Blue Man is qualified?
I am one of I'm the only physician that I know of that can do that. There may be, a few others out there. There may be, but I don't know of any other physicians that can do that.
Do you recognize anybody other than yourself who has this very particular expertise to be able to do this kind of work?
I'm not aware of anyone.
You were a medical examiner, a forensic pathologist,
Yes.
and you know there's about, or would you agree there's probably about 900 to 1,000 medical examiners around the country at the same time over a period of time?
I believe that there might be, there's probably, I think there's around 500 or 600 practicing forensic pathologists.
And do you think because they are forensic pathologists, those 500 or 600 people have the unique qualifications as you do to be able to give an opinion about the genesis of a wound?
Wounds in general, perhaps. Dog bite wounds, I doubt that very many of them have a specific interest in dog bite wounds.
And so you think that of all those forensic pathologists, medical examiners,
What all these people got to do with her? She's so uniquely qualified. And you're just trying to smear her by making up innuendos and
you
accusations.
think that qualification and experience itself is not enough to qualify somebody to give an opinion on a photograph about the genesis of a wound related to dog bites?
These people deal with this all day long. You're going to deal with somebody like you call Welcher, who's not even allowed in a civil case in Massachusetts to talk about causation of injuries.
Well, if a forensic pathologist has autopsied 1 or 2 cases of dog bite wounds versus my experience with over 500 to 1,000 cases of dog bite wounds, I'm not so sure that person would be a very good expert in that kind of a case.
Have you ever heard of a doctor named Dr. La Posada?
I've heard of Dr. La Posada.
Have you ever read any reports by Dr. La Posada?
No.
Has anybody ever shared with you any information or opinions of Dr. La Posada?
I believe she has a very good reputation.
Have you ever, well, how do you believe that? Who told you that?
Because I've heard of her name at national organizations. I believe she's given presentations nationally. I've seen her name, over a dozen years or so.
Do you know whether or not she has any participation in this case?
I believe she does.
Well, so you know when you're providing accolades that she has maybe some involvement in this case? Do you know that?
I would provide those same accolades if she didn't have involvement in this case.
Do you know that she has involvement in this case?
I believe she does. The attorneys have not shared everything with me
Well,
in terms of who the witnesses are.
somebody must have shared her name. Who shared her name with you?
I'm very familiar with her name outside this case.
Who shared her name that she may be a participant in this case?
What difference does it make?
I don't remember. I don't remember.
Well, somebody met.
I think I got a file or something, but yeah.
So when you were reviewing this case, did you get materials from any of the attorneys authored by Dr. La Posada?
I don't think I read a report. I was very interested in reading a report by Dr. La Posada. I was very interested, but I didn't see one.
So when you received materials in this case, you didn't read all the materials the defense gave you?
I don't believe they gave me the report.
What report?
Any report that Dr. La Posada might have written.
Do you know whether or not you've received the report or not?
I received something that had her name on it. I don't remember what it was, but I was looking for a medical examiner's or a report, or an actual report, and I did not see one.
Dr. Russell, you are meticulous when you look and examine things.
Right.
So you would know what you've received and what you've read and what you haven't. So the
Trying to impeach her. Wow, you're just so low.
fact that you're telling us that you saw something with her name on it, can you give us a little more information and share with us what it is you actually received about?
Look at him just trying to like twist a knife in her back. You got something to hide here. I got something. I found the thing I'm gonna unravel your whole testimony with and make you out to be some lying dirtbag.
This Dr. La Posada. What did you get from the defense?
I saw something. I think it was the name of a file folder, but I looked for a report and there was no report in it.
Did you ever ask for one?
I didn't ask because I didn't ask. I really wanted to read it, but I didn't. It wasn't given to me, so I didn't ask.
Were you ever told?
If she wasn't comparing herself to other experts and what they might have said, this is completely irrelevant. So on one hand, object if you're the defense, but the other hand, he's looking like a you know what.
What other people's opinions might be regarding those photographs?
I'm aware that there was a Dr. Sheridan involved in a previous proceeding, and he believed that those were consistent with dog bites.
Did you ever receive any reports from the defense about what other person's opinions would be in this trial about dog bites?
Oh, yes, I received a report authored by a non-physician. Yes.
So when you say non-physician, you're trying to make the point because you think that person might be your opponent in this case?
I don't have any opponents.
Okay, so why did you qualify as a non-physician?
Because I believe that in order to really understand wounds on a human being, one needs to have treated wounds, seen lots of wounds, and I think that the person that is best qualified for that is a physician.
So a medical examiner wouldn't cut it, in your opinion?
Medical examiner is a physician.
So you think a medical examiner has enough experience to come in and give an opinion on
Some-
dog bites?
Some, but in their case, I would hope
What
that
is
they
he
have had
doing? What is he doing? Where's he going down this? It's just bizarre.
actual clinical.
This guy is a bad lawyer, guys. He's just not good. He's not good at advocacy. He thinks he can do this beatdown motif and it works on a jury. No way. No way.
Experience with autopsy.
They cannot be that clueless and out of touch with the reality in Massachusetts to fall for this round two, no matter what this court is allowing this guy to get away with.
In some cases where there were dog bite wounds, because I don't think they worked in the emergency room or any other clinical setting where they treated people. So I'd want to see if they had experience with dog bites.
I'm doctor as a disqualification. How about a dog trainer? Would a dog trainer who's not a doctor
Now he's trying to do comparative expert testimony. Okay.
have the experience in your mind
Again.
to come in and give an opinion about?
He's going to try to use this to try to maybe keep out the expert dog trainer that defense has on the list.
Photographs and the genesis of the wounds. Judging, Your Honor.
I'm going to allow it.
How about a non?
Yeah, so the judge can sit there and use this as a basis to maybe strike. I forget the guy's name, the dog trainer.
Doctor, as you said, you made a distinction.
Uh-huh.
They're simply a dog trainer, maybe even an uncertified dog trainer. Would that person have the qualifications in your mind to be able to look at photographs and determine whether or not the
Why don't you just hand her his resume? That's what you really want.
cause of the injury is a dog bite.
There may be a certain small subset of people who have, very much experience with dog bites that could qualify as suggesting that these are consistent with dog bites, but I don't think that they could definitively. I think that someone could, who dealt with many dog bites in the past on humans, could possibly say that they were consistent with.
Even if they didn't have the clinical experience?
Well, I prefer that to hear that information from a physician, but I wouldn't rule out that only doctors.
It's like he prides himself on being a bully, and he thinks he wins just by being a bully. It's like he thrives himself on just trying to mentally and verbally abuse people by the way he treats them, and it's like he doesn't care how it comes across to a jury. Like he completely has no clue about how he's losing a jury. And so that is the sign of a really, really bad.
Only a physician, MD.
He may have experience, but you can have a lot of experience and be good at losing cases over and over again.
Could say that something was a dog bite.
It seems like the standard's now kind of changing a little bit. Because when I asked you, you mentioned the other person, you just qualified the person because they weren't a doctor. And it seems now in some instances, you're willing to accept a non.
Look at that. He's just trying to you said this, but now you said this, and now you're basically not credible anymore. We shouldn't believe you because you're a sleazy type of witness here.
Doctor into a very select group.
Keep it up.
If someone, I can explain.
Keep it up, Brennan.
If someone had looked at perhaps hundreds and hundreds of wounds inflicted by a dog that they know was inflicted by a dog, and they saw the resulting photographs on a person, I think that particular person may be able to make some comment as to whether or not some wounds are consistent. However, if in terms of a medical examiner, if they've autopsied.
Deborah Marcotti, is Brennan bringing out my mean streak, Carl? I'm being mean? I'm talking about how this woman is being verbally abused and harassed by a lawyer that's spinning everything around and trying to make her look like she's some kind of a grifting, attention-seeking, fame-seeking, low-character person. Really, I'm being mean, and you're not going to call Brennan mean. So guess what? You're a troll. So goodbye.
One case or two cases of dog bites, and they're trying to testify based on some pictures. I would be a little concerned about that.
Does qualification for this type of business, in your mind, depend on who hires you?
Absolutely not.
Suffice to say, you've never taken a class in the forensic analysis of dog bites.
I don't think any class exists.
Exactly. They don't exist.
But I'm asking about your.
Because it's pretty obvious it's not in dispute in most. In a million cases of dog bites, it's maybe in dispute one time. That's why you don't develop an expertise in it. Have you ever taken a class, Hank, on how to avoid coming across like a complete... I could fill in a lot of blanks here. Have you ever had a law school continuing legal education like that, Hank, on how your personality can cause you to alienate a jury? Have you ever seen a course like that, Hank?
Your experience.
Well, that's correct.
You haven't, have you?
That's correct. I can't take a course that doesn't exist.
You've never engaged in any type of opinion looking at.
Have you ever seen a course and they show video clips of prosecutors that absolutely destroy their credibility in front of a jury by berating and harassing and demeaning a professional expert witness? Have you attended a class like that?
At photographs and then had that opinion peer reviewed by other dog bite experts, have you?
No.
Do you have any experience in veterinarian medicine?
I'm aware of it. That's my experience.
Do you have any accomplishments like degrees?
No.
Now, you've testified a number of times in this case, haven't you?
Yes.
And when you testify, you know there's a court reporter and there are transcripts, correct?
Yes.
You originally testified when you first came out and volunteered to testify last year, and there was a hearing before trial, wasn't there?
Excuse me, say again,
When you
please.
volunteered to come out last year, there was a hearing before you testified at trial, wasn't there?
Yes,
Do you remember that was on June 18th, 2022?
sounds right.
And then you then testified at trial on June 21st, 2022.
Yes,
I didn't have the privilege of meeting you on either of those events, did I?
no,
But since then, we have met.
yes,
No, you weren't paid your hundreds of thousands of dollars to go after Karen Reed a second time because a jury was confused and misled by the previous prosecutor and judge.
And we had a chance to speak at a subsequent hearing on December 12th, 2024.
yes,
And then after that, we again had an opportunity to discuss this on January 7th, 2025.
yes,
When you reviewed the case, when you first reviewed it before you testified last year, you had very limited information, didn't you?
yes,
You had just an autopsy report, photographs from the coroner, photographs from the hospital,
What's this got to do with
an
anything?
emergency room report. Yes,
yes, I had more than that.
the medical examiner file had a toxicology report.
Yes, and there was more.
Okay,
I believe there was a dog bite, town of Canton report.
okay.
So in other words, the last time you testified, you didn't know enough of details. So therefore, you're willing to just go up there and just sort of wing it and not have any background or foundation to testify to what you're testifying to. So we just ought to throw out all your testimony now is not
But
credible.
when you had an opportunity to look at the medical examiner's report, you yourself had been a medical examiner, correct?
Yes,
And there's a unique advantage of actually conducting an autopsy as opposed to just looking at photographs, isn't there?
yes, there is.
And if you were actually conducting the autopsy, you firsthand can make observations about injuries, make measurements, and see things that don't always appear in photographs.
That's correct.
And when you would do medical exams, you had a distinct advantage over people who would later see your work, a written report, or photographs, because you were there actually conducting the investigation.
Yes,
And it's for that reason that when you testified before, you have acknowledged that you relied on Dr. Scordi-Bello's report for information.
yes,
Yeah, that's true, Leslie. All he's hired to do is hide the truth to get Karen Reed convicted. That's obvious. And remember what they said publicly. The reason Hank Brennan was hired was to ensure Karen Reed gets a fair trial. Yeah, right.
You didn't have the
This is what
benefit of
fairness in
doing measurements or
Massachusetts
looking
looks
at
like.
depths or anything else firsthand.
yes, correct.
And when you look at that photograph that you discussed with the jury, you also had a chance to see Dr. Scordi-Bello's report regarding the abrasions on Mr. O'Keefe's arm.
Yes,
She described those abrasions as superficial, didn't she?
yes,
She actually gave measurements, 3 centimeter superficial abrasion on the right medial upper arm. Right?
yes,
You not only read that, you deferred to her ability to have a firsthand observation, and you accepted that as true, didn't you?
yes, but there's no interpretation of that abrasion.
Multiple abrasions from 2 to 3 millimeters and up to 7 centimeters on the posterior right arm and forearm.
Yes,
Did you read that from
I
Dr.
did.
Scordi-Bello?
yes,
Did you accept her finding and
Yes.
observation? And
yes.
you would agree she was in a far superior position than you when she made these observations and notes, correct?
They are not inconsistent with what I said.
That's not what I asked, though.
Okay,
Sorry, I didn't mean to be sharp. I
okay.
apologize. Did you rely on her ability and firsthand observation of those wounds?
Yes,
And did you appreciate or accept the fact she had a superior opportunity to evaluate those wounds firsthand that you did not have the benefit of?
she made no interpretation of those ones.
Did you know that Dr. Scordi-Bello had described them as superficial?
They are
Did you know that she said there was no depth and no puncture?
not inconsistent with what I said.
I understand,
Hank doesn't even realize that that's not inconsistent.
Doctor, but I'm asking you, do you
I-
know that her position is that there was no puncture and no depth to those wounds?
Objection, Your Honor. Can we have the witness see the report that he keeps referring to?
Yeah, he's bringing up a report that was written a long time ago, and he's bringing up real specific items, and he's trying to like cross around her memory of that, little details like that. She's making her own opinion based on what she can see. She doesn't need the ME's opinion. She's equivalent of an ME. She's got a pathologist background.
Can you answer that question without saying it, or do you need to see it?
Well, I remember it, but there's no inconsistency here. I agree with that.
Would you accept that Dr. Scordi-Bello's opinion is that there was no depth and no puncture to those wounds?
May I see the report?
It might not be in the report. I'm asking about any testimony.
It may not be in the report, really. That's what you just said.
testimony, anything that she's ever said, would you agree or accept her position that there is no puncture or depth to those wounds?
Objection, Your Honor, like all the questions that were about an autopsy. Yeah. Sorry.
Okay.
Wow, this is another great day for the defense to have a prosecutor be this clueless on how to make a complete fool out of yourself in front of the jury. So let's see what the judge is going to try to do to rehab this this disaster.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean to be sharp.
Okay.
I apologize. From not only
Which-
abrasion, you, Dr. Scotty Bellows, report for information in the investigation.
I messed
Yes.
up
And it's for
here.
that reason, measuring the abrasions on Mr. O'Keefe's arm.
Did I
Yes.
back up?
Described
and go
those
forward?
abrasions as superficial, didn't she?
Yep.
I think I
have
backed up
forearm.
accidentally.
Yes.
Did you read that from
I
Dr.
did.
Scotabello?
Okay, sorry, backed up accidentally. Look at all this time wasted. Judge trying to salvage the prosecution, doing her best job.
May I?
Yes, please.
Dr. Russell, I read to you the
Notice the judge has never reeled in Brennan, said, "You will not talk to a witness that way, counsels."
measurements that were in Dr. Scotty Bellows' report. Are you aware that she testified that these superficial abrasions did not have any depth or any puncture?
I don't recall that.
Well, would you agree if Dr. Scotty Bellows testified in this court that those superficial abrasions did not have any puncture or depth? Would you agree with that assessment?
Objection, Your Honor.
In that form, it's sustained.
Would you agree that the superficial abrasions on Mr. O'Keefe's arm
What difference does it make? How are you scoring any points, even if there was a difference of opinion? There's not like a exact medical thing saying if a wound in the arm is 3/8 of an inch versus 1/4 of an inch, one is a puncture and the other one's superficial, or whatever these terms are.
had no punctures?
I agree.
Would you agree that the abrasions
Yeah, puncture I think is more like a plunging type thing.
the superficial abrasions on Mr. O'Keefe's arm?
Abrasion is
depth.
more linear
No measure.
along with the surface of the skin, I would say. That's my just off the top of my head comparison.
Measurable depth. Yes.
Between the last time you testified and then you testified here today, have you spoken to the attorneys at all regarding the issue of punctures?
No.
Because you are agreeing today that those superficial abrasions did not have any punctures, right?
They don't appear to have any punctures.
But you, in the past, have testified very, very differently than that, haven't you?
No.
Oh, very, very different. Like, oh, you got her now. You got her now.
Now, we've spoken many times. I'm going to go through many of those examples later, but we'll do that a little bit later, Dr. Russell.
Yeah. Can you imagine what the jury must feel like listening to this guy day after day after day, hour after hour after hour in this courtroom?
Over the course of your many testimonies under oath, would it be fair to say that you have changed your opinions about the superficial abrasions to John O'Keefe's arm many times?
I don't believe that's fair to say.
In the past, when you were describing Mr. O'Keefe's superficial abrasions on his arm, did you give varying and different opinions about the cause of each individual wound, area of wound?
I don't believe so.
When you first gave opinions, that was before the last proceeding. You came in and you were questioned before you testified in that initial proceeding, right? I'm trying to be as specific as I can. You testified last year,
Yes.
And
In
please.
there was a hearing and then there was a proceeding.
That prior hearing, can we call the first event the prior hearing and the next one the prior proceeding?
I'm confused.
I don't want to confuse you. I'm just trying to follow the rules. You testified twice last year, didn't you?
3 times.
3 times. Okay. The
Yeah,
first time you
thank you.
testified was just before the judge?
Yes,
Okay. When you first testified before the judge, do you remember that you had uncertainty about how each and every one of those wounds was caused?
I don't remember that.
And do you remember when you then testified a couple days later at the proceeding that some of your opinions changed from the first time you testified?
I don't believe that.
And then when you later met me and we've had a chance to talk over the last 2 events, December and January, would it be fair to say that your opinions regarding the individual areas of wound changed?
I don't believe so.
Okay. At some point before or during our conversations in December and January, you wrote a report, didn't you?
Yes,
When you wrote that report, you hadn't written a report before the first time you came in and testified, had you?
that's correct.
And it was between those hearings in December and in January where you wrote your first report.
Sounds correct.
You dated that report December 9th, 2024. Does that ring a bell?
Yes,
When you wrote that report, you did not write that report alone, did you?
I did.
You had some help, didn't you?
Not in the content of the report.
Well, you sent the report back a number of times for review and revisions, didn't you?
In terms of organization,
And some of the language in this report is really not your language. It's the language of somebody who helped you write some of this, isn't it?
you know, if somebody helped me write it, it would have been much better written than that.
Didn't you agree that you had some assistance with the report? Haven't you testified to that before?
And no, and in terms of organization, there was some comments, though, this sentence belongs, with this paragraph or the, whatever. But in terms of content, that was my work.
Well, it was your report, correct?
It's my report.
And when you write a report, it's your words, not somebody else's. Isn't that true?
That's correct.
But nevertheless, you had somebody assisting you. True.
In terms of organization, yes.
Who was helping you with the report?
Um,
Where are we going with this?
it was somebody from the law
Wasting
office.
time
Well,
on
it
the
was this gentleman
jury.
right here, Attorney Alisi, who just asked you
But it's
questions.
good. It's
No,
good.
actually, it wasn't.
Was it from his?
Overall, strategically, this is great how he's acting and treating her, because the jury is further and further seeing the way this guy treats evidence, treats people, is not credible, is not believable, and is putting a spin on the littlest minute detail and trying to throw out all these wild theories to witnesses act, trying to get them to sound like they change their testimony. They're just unsophisticated and not credible at all. But in the end, they see it for what it really is.
Law firm that somebody helped you?
I believe so, but it was in terms of organization.
Do you remember who was helping you with your report?
I don't remember her name.
Would you agree that after that report was written, many of your opinions changed?
No,
In your report, you provide your background. Yes?
yes,
And you've been licensed to practice medicine since 1988
yes,
as a physician?
yes.
And you've been licensed to practice medicine as a surgeon?
It's called, in California, it's called physician and surgeon license.
Do you have a physician and surgeon's license?
I do.
Okay. Have you ever practiced as a surgeon?
Well, in the emergency department, we do surgery. We have to do some surgery sometimes. We have to open up people's chests and, and compress the heart sometimes when they're have gunshot wounds to the chest. I've had to put chest tubes in. I've had to debride dog bite wounds and other wounds. So yes, there is a component of surgery.
If you do stitches, that's considered surgery, isn't it?
Maybe.
Well, medically speaking, stitches is surgery.
I don't know. Maybe.
Okay. Do you have a surgeon's license?
I have a physician and surgeon's license in California.
Now, when you first looked at this case and testified, do you remember when you were looking at Mr. O'Keefe's superficial wounds, you said that you thought they appeared to be consistent with an animal attack?
I do remember that.
And when you were describing animal attack, you were a lot less specific than you were today, weren't you?
Yes.
You were less sure about your opinion when you first testified about this case than you
Oh my
provided this
gosh.
jury today.
I was certain that it was a dog attack. However, as I mentioned before to you, in medicine, we're taught never, nothing is 100%, and therefore never say, anything's 100%. So that's why I gave that that generalization. However, I have reviewed the case. I personally was certain that that those were dog marks. Now, I have reviewed this case over and over and over again. Plus, I've read additional articles more than once, and which substantiate again my findings. So, so my degree of certainty perhaps increased.
So when you first testified in this case back in June,
Excellent answer. So you just dug yourself a hole there, Brennan. Now we can do
of
lash out at
2022,
her with something else.
are you agreeing that your testimony was less certain than today?
She just said it. She got more and more detailed research and study. Now there's no doubt in her mind these are dog bite marks.
I believed that it was a dog attack at that time.
When you testified, you didn't say dog attack, you said animal attack at the beginning, didn't you?
Yes.
And when you were asked about the cause, you said that it could be bite or scratch wounds.
Correct.
So back in June, when you were looking at individual wounds, you, at that time anyways, were unable to differentiate between bite and scratch wounds.
They are very similar.
I understand, but today you seem pretty unequivocal. So I want to go back to the beginning and see the evolution. I'm asking a question.
All right.
It's still a dog. It's still a dog, Hank, whether it's claw marks or teeth marks.
So the argumentative party's out. Ask the question, Mr. Blunt.
I want to go back to identify the evolution of your opinions. So let's start at the beginning.
So question, please.
At the beginning, before your opinion evolved, you started with an opinion that this could have been either bite or scratch wounds, right?
Yes.
And if there was actually a methodology where you could identify superficial abrasions and make a determination whether it was from an animal or a dog, there would be something definitive, specific, where you could identify a scratch from a bite wound, wouldn't there be?
Not unless there was a piece of tooth in the wound or a piece of nail. There would otherwise not be any specificity.
You talked about patterns when you first testified back in June of last year.
Mhm.
And when you talked about the patterns, again,
He's insufferable.
you had some uncertainty whether those patterns were caused by nails, claws, or could have been caused by teeth. Isn't that fair to say originally that was your position?
There is some overlap in terms of the appearances. They can
Because they're similar shaped. Claws can be very, very similar shaped to teeth.
they can appear very similar, and they can be arranged very similar in terms of parallel lines.
In fact, when you first testified, you weren't consistently even saying that it was a dog, or as you say today, dog attack. You were saying, in your opinion, that they were the result of animal bites or scratches. That was what you originally opined, isn't it?
We just went through that, yes.
And at some point, you said that it might most likely be a large dog. Do you remember that?
Objection, Your Honor. Can we approach with regard to this?
I just wish I could see the jury. If I could see the jury looking at how they see him treating her, I mean, I would be absolutely be able to read that and tell you right now, I guarantee you this is going to be a win.
So why don't we break for today? All right, so jurors, we're not going to finish this today in the next 5 minutes, so it seems like it's a good place to break. I do have to give you those same cautions. Please do not discuss this case with anyone.
cannot
who
imagine
doing
how a jury
research or investigation into the case.
Would want
If
to
you
win
happen to see,
vote
hear, or read
for
anything
anything
about
Hank
the
Brennan
case,
says to
please
do.
look at it and let us know. Please be very careful with your social media use. Tomorrow is also a full day. We'll see you. Thank you very much. Dr. Russell, you can get just
Thank you.
Wow.
Okay, thank you.
Can I see counsel while the jury's filing out, please?
You won't believe her until she puts blue paint on Chloe's mouth and rubs her arm against it, dressed just like John. I'm not going to be able to pronounce your name. I'll say MG. All right, so let me see any last questions. So this is it for the day, folks. Huge win for the defense today. They did awesome overall. I think, like I say, that one guy that came out, Jonathan DeMantis, that's the whole issue. All right, they scored some points on there. Maybe they're not going to call Proctor, but this expert here, Dr. Russell, this is like got reasonable doubt, acquittals, so many from coming at him from so many different angles. Brendan has to know he's crushed, but he's going to keep on arguing and spinning. And berating folks, browbeating them and demeaning them and hoping he scores some points, but he's not scoring any points when you treat people like that. Yeah, Monique, jurors get to see firsthand how grossly offensive and abusive Brennan is. What a sweet lady. What a hero this doctor is for reaching out, having the heart of a champion here, a real winner. Has actual concerns about district attorney's offices lying about someone's injuries to try to convict an innocent person. Yeah, he's all about semantics. I mean, I would just think a juror would just want to reach over there and just force him to be quiet. His snarky temper tantrum tone is so unbelievably off-putting. Ted, I've never seen a worse voice for a lawyer. A most insufferable, alienating voice. Yeah, Island Girl, you could think the same thing. Same thing with Janai. Insufferable. Yep. Yet the wounds were never swabbed and tested for dog DNA. Norton cancels jury's rolling her eyes this whole time. Anyway, all right, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here. You guys have a great night. Lucas Knight, no, I've never seen a prosecutor this way. I know how to go after prosecutors that are hide the ball and do stuff to constantly spin and misdirect the jury and trick the jury, but nobody is this bad as Hank Brennan is that I've ever seen. And no, I've never seen a combo with a judge this bad. That's basically a district attorney sitting there on the bench. She might as well be Hank Brennan's boss for that matter, the way she's ruling. And so, but keep in mind what I've said is that he's lost the jury. The jury cannot trust a guy like him. They will not want to believe him. They will not want to do what he says. When you got these kind of witnesses and the way he treats them and the way all the truth is being objected by this guy and the judges rubber stamps it is not, they should not win from any jury I've ever seen. Okay. So that's what I'm taking to the bank here. So with that, I'm signing off, and thanks for supporting Justice for the Reed family.